Stuff going on tonight. We've got Husker baseball tomorrow starting at 2 o'clock as they take on Florida in the Stillwater Regional, which we will get into that. We've got the richest man in college volleyball residing right here in the great state of Nebraska after a little contract extension with our man John Cook.
Handsome little extension.
Handsome extension and a nice little retention bonus that's going to go to purchase a horse. How about that?
To ride it out every game.
Now, the horse is is it 415 or 415? I don't know. I was just reading so I don't know if it's a 415 or 415. Either way, I was wondering, why not 1890? Oh, what if that was the ultimate collective flex that somehow John Cook and Nebraska's collective 1890 teamed up and he purchased a horse named 1890?
That'd be awesome. This is what all the money's been going to. None of this has been going into any other sport.
No.
This is merely a front for a horse project.
Yeah, and then you got a billboard the entire time that horse, if it wants to be competitive, a show horse, whatever, it's 1890. People are like, what's 1890? Oh, I'm glad you asked.
Let me tell you.
Are you a fan of Nebraska athletics? Because here's how you can know more and get involved with 1890. So good stuff there. Hey, yeah, we've got a lot to get to today. Spencer Schwellenbach wasn't bad. Now he got the L, but yeah, I'm okay with his appearance. I made sure I stopped and watched. I missed one inning of Schwelly. I missed his third inning.
If he goes one more inning,
fourth, and fifth,
if he goes six, it would have been a quality start if he put up a 0 on that frame. So
yep,
and it was one pitch that was responsible for every run.
Yes.
So
he's got some nasty stuff though. He's got a hammer.
The comments that I saw were from the Braves fan base were largely positive.
Yeah.
And almost none of the negative ones were directed at him. It was mostly directed at the offense, which has been a struggle for them in recent weeks. But
and now without Ronnie out,
debut.
You got Ronnie out.
They're just not having a fun year right now.
That hurts. That definitely hurts. This has been kind of under the radar as well, that we'll get into a little bit later on. But as we get excited about Nebraska baseball in the regional and winning the Big Ten tournament and everything that came with that when we came back on the air on Tuesday, between Tuesday and today now, as we talk to you, Nebraska softball has been quietly adding to their repertoire, adding to their arsenal right now, too. They got another one.
Rhonda's keeping busy.
Yeah, because remember, Jordy should be good to go next year. And you're replacing the all-time Nebraska softball home run leader in Billy Andrews. How do you replace that? Well, you go out and find yourself another all-Big Ten selection that played the same position. It's very familiar with that conference, on top of two very solid local products that were elsewhere and are returning to Nebraska. But we'll get into that. That's been cool. Now, the deadline to remove your name, to withdraw your name from the NBA draft came and went yesterday. And there are some players that are going to be a part of the college basketball season in 24-25. Now, locally, we already knew, I think he was in the NBA draft consideration, his name anyway, for like a hot minute. And that was Ryan Kalkbrenner. Remember, his name showed up. He did it very quietly, but then there was a little bit more attention to when he withdrew, which was in a matter of days. It wasn't weeks. Everything on that front for Creighton has essentially gone to everyone's prediction. You knew Stephen Ashworth was going to come back. Now, that was made public over the weekend, but that wasn't not that he was going to the NBA draft. You thought, well, maybe he was done with just being a student athlete. But he's married. They have a child. They're being taken care of very well here in Omaha. So you knew there was going to be a lot of building around Stephen Ashworth and Ryan Kalkbrenner, a good little 1-2 punch there. We also anticipated that Trey Alexander would remain in the NBA draft. That has taken place. That's official. He is. Mm-hmm. But there were some surprises yesterday that we'll get to a little bit later on throughout college basketball. One local product A couple of familiar names from Big East play. And also, speaking of Creighton, a team that will be on Creighton's schedule gets a lot more loaded, and a Big Ten player of significance returning as well. So we will get into that. You mentioned the Braves in that division. As I look down, boy, if you were watching any Major League Baseball last night, and you probably got updated on this at some point, or you were inundated with it last night or this morning, if you were watching your favorites sports highlight shows, that you realize the depths as to which the New York Mets dumpster fire grinds into. I mean, it's bad, and there was another great example last night that we'll get into as well. So a lot going on. We got a lot to talk about and talk with today. Sarah Baker Hansen going to be back on the show. She joins us at 8 o'clock. It's been a few weeks since we've talked to Sarah. We'll get the latest on some of her reviews and what's happening in the world of food. Fooled? Did I say fooled? Food. Steve Sipple of On 3 at 93.7 The Ticket, Husker Online, will be joining us at 8:30. Evan Bland's going to be making his way out to Stillwater. I had to text Evan about this last night. Now, Evan is a regular on Mondays. That's just going forward. Evan's going to be a Monday correspondent annually throughout the year, not just during the seasons, because he covers football and basketball. We've been using him a lot lately, and that's because Nebraska baseball has been giving us something to talk about. So Evan's kind enough to join us today at 9 o'clock en route to Stillwater, Oklahoma, as we will preview the matchup, which we do officially know the pitching matchups. No big surprise on the Nebraska front. We'll tell you who Florida is going to be rolling out there. If you listen to Kyle Peterson, you remember a name that he brought up that is coming to fruition. And then we will talk to Brian Edwards, get some of the latest, maybe what he likes tonight in Game 5 and some of the upcoming events in the sports weekend. That is our lineup, which is always powered by our friends at the Rooferees, John Higgins Weather Guard. If you want to weigh in on the conversation, we got a lot to get to. I got some off-the-wall stuff, too. I was telling Peter a story about my experience at NFM that I'll tell you about here in a moment. But if you do want to weigh in on the conversation, the 42-degree hotline, the source, by your mom's house, always open for you, 402-951-1620. The Equitable Bank inbox, where they take banking personally, and there is not one person who takes banking more personally than Doug. Like, it is personal with him, and he'll let you know about it too. You march right in there, and you talk about life, you talk about banking, you talk about anything with Doug and his great staff out there at Equitable Bank. You can hit me up on my email is Handley at 1620thezone.com, and the JTech Construction Zone Twitter feed on Twitter at Nick Handley 1620. Or at Sharp and Handley. So, I know many of you will make your regular trips out to Nebraska Furniture Mart, right? Because, I mean, they've got everything. It's hard to go. I don't know if I've ever gone a year without having to set foot into Nebraska Furniture Mart. And if you go into what I like to call the hub, or the place that I probably spend the most time in Nebraska Furniture Mart, and that is where they've got the appliances, they've got the TVs, the electronics. That's typically where we're at. If we're going to the other spots, like where the furniture is, and that you have to at least some point go through that section. Now, the genius part about what NFM has introduced us to is they now have a bar right next to the subway. In fact, the bar is a really smart thing. Now, Peter, my wife and I have made some purchases over the last 5 years, and I think it would have been right around COVID, if I'm not mistaken, when they had the addition of what do they call that little bar there? It's got a name. I can't remember. It's like Sky something or something. I don't know what it's called.
I'm blanking on it.
I know. I can see it. Either way, it was genius, because you're going to make a big purchase. You're like, okay, I got to think about this, because you're not going there to buy something for $20 or less. I don't even know if they have anything for that.
Yeah, that might be
other than maybe going to Subway.
Maybe whatever you're getting at the register.
Yeah, right. And does NFM have gum or mints or anything? But So, you go think about it. And if whoever's making the decision, whoever's driving the decision, and in this case, I'll give you an example. We were buying a new washer dryer set. And as we were looking at the washer and dryers, we realized, our oven's getting a little worn. Let's take a look and see. Well, then they throw these, hey, we got a really good deal going on in this. And then you look at it and like, oh, okay, that's not a bad deal. And then you start totaling everything up. Like, Jesus, this is going to cost. So in this case, my wife said, hey, let's go talk about it. Let's go get a beer. And so we go over to that little place, just smack dab right next to all the major appliances. And one fairy nectar later, I'm thinking, yeah, you know what? Let's do it. Yeah. You know what? Let's do it. We've worked hard for this. We need this. Let's go ahead and do it. So it is. That's a genius thing that they've got going on there. I don't know. I'd be curious. And if you're one of these people that have done this, let us know at 402-951-1620, or you can tweet at me. I'm really curious if anybody's done multiple beers, if anybody's really posted up and just, I'm going to make a day of it. I'm just going to keep going at it.
Let us know.
Yeah, I want to know. Has anybody gone multiple beers while at NFM?
It's never in and out at NFM.
No.
It's always a multiple hour trip.
Absolutely. And I'm not going to judge anybody. In fact, I'll stop short of saying I encourage it, but I understand it. If you say, you know what, that one hit well, I'm still not convinced on my purchase yet, though. I need another one. I could go either way right now. Let's try another one. Oh, and I noticed that they have that beer that I've been wanting to try for a while. So let's go ahead and do that as well. I've done that little bar that they have there. I don't know if I call it a bar, but a alcohol kiosk. I've had beers there. I've never gone more than one. So I'm curious if anybody has done that. So the reason I bring up NFM is yesterday, it was right after I left here. We had to pick up a new vacuum cleaner. And there is something that everyone knows what I'm talking about when I bring this up. When you walk by, right next to that bar, I mentioned there's a Subway. Subway always has a smell. It's the bread. It's its own distinct smell. You're like, it's intriguing, especially if you're very, very hungry. It's one of those things that can mess with you. It can pull you in. You could have absolutely no intention of grabbing a sandwich at Subway when you're at NFM. But you smell that, and it hits you at the right part of the day. I was literally the first customer to walk in to the appliance area. So the smells were, they were consuming. They're all over the place. And Peter, I'm not going to say I'm proud of this because I have nothing against Subway, but I did resist. But I was about to cave because there've been many times since, or before that, I should say, many times before that I've gone through NFM and I smell that. I'm like, I know we just ate, but man, just a cold cut combo. That sounds kind of good right now. Maybe a meatball. See, I'm going old school. I'm not going with the new fancy ones that they, added to the menu 10 years ago. I'm talking, give me some cold cut combos.
Simple's best. At a place like that, simple's the best.
Yeah, you go with the classics. Meatball marinara, cold cut combo. Throw some mayo on that.
But there is something about a sandwich shop whiff of bread.
Yep.
It just stimulates your nose, and even if you had no intention of eating, you're like, ooh.
I was right there. In fact, I can tell you I would have if carrying this, it was a really light box that the vacuum cleaner was in, but it was really awkward. If I had like a cart or something, I guarantee you I would have stopped. I would have eaten it on the way home. That would have been the other thing too. I would have grabbed it. I would have been like, oh, cool. A to-go sandwich. Because you don't wait till you get home if you're that hungry and you're buying it. So yeah, I was very proud of that. Yeah. I now that I say it out loud, I don't think it's really anything. But yesterday I was very proud. I walked away. I'm like, damn, that was not easy.
That is something to be proud of.
That wasn't easy, but I did it. I sure did. Gosh, a cold cut combo sounded good. That was my go-to. And I don't know. This is probably kind of gross, but it was cold cut combo, extra mayo on it. I mean,
that's fine.
I got tomatoes and other stuff on it too, but I just had to get the extra mayo on it. But I digress. But so for all of you that, and you could say the same thing about Walmart too, because of the Subways there. You always smell it.
Oh yeah, and then Costco, infamous for the
Mm-hmm.
Costco hot dog, the
Yep.
pizza.
The pizza as well.
The
Yep.
churro has sadly departed, but that was a staple. I always got a churro when I would go
I've
shop.
never had a Costco churro.
Oh, fantastic.
Really?
I do sincerely hope it makes a return.
Well, they are opening that new one on Maple, which is really close. In fact, that thing shot up fast. Maybe they'll bring it back.
I see an opportunity here.
Yeah.
To revitalize the churro. They do have ice cream. The ice cream's good, but yeah, the churro was special.
What's up with Costco pizza being so basic yet so good?
I don't know what it is, but it's the crust is delicious.
Yeah, I don't know what it is either. I mean, there's really, I can't explain it.
Like
I can't
visually,
say, well, it's got this going on. Maybe you're right. Maybe it's the crust. I don't know. It's the most basic thing in the world. Yet, get that out of the oven and eat it.
You open the box visually, you're like, this looks like probably ballpark pizza, something you would just get at a game.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so much better than any pizza I've ever had at an arena show or a game of any kind.
Yeah, you're right. I don't know.
I don't know what they're cooking over there, but they're doing a good job.
It's freaking Costco, man. They always find a way. They always find a way. So yeah, if you're going to NFM today, you know what? Do what I didn't do. Get yourself a sub at Subway.
Yeah,
because it smelled so good. I was so hungry. I was ready for lunch. That would have been a fine lunch. I haven't been to Subway in a while. It'd be fun to reconnect. It'd be fun to get reacquainted with Subway.
it just feels like a lot of Subways have closed.
That's true.
And they're not really popping up anywhere.
See, I missed the day. Now, Peter, I know I'm a lot older than you. And so I don't know if you ever got to experience this, but when Subway had the way that they cut the bread, they had it was this tiny little wedge that was the top. And so they'd put all the toppings where obviously the wedge would vacate. And then after they put the toppings on, they would put this little, the other part, the missing part of the bread, but it was this little wedge thing. I thought that was so cool. It was kind of, depending on how much meat and fixins you put on there, it was kind of tough to keep that thing securely locked in. But then they started going with the normal, like, let's just cut it in half thing, or let's cut it, to the very edge without actually slicing it in half. But man, the wedge, if you know, people who are around my age, you remember Subway when it was brown and yellow, when the sign was brown and yellow. Now they got this green going on. They're all fancy, but yeah.
Rebranded.
Yeah, the whole rebrand. Come on, man. There was just something about that little wedge, and we would walk to Subway. It was a good mile and a half from our house, and we would walk there. Load up as much change as I could. I remember get a 12-inch foot. I know this was back in the day. Hot dogs costed a nickel at the ball game, but I would load up several quarters, and I could usually get a foot long for under $4. I think with the meal, a 12-inch foot long, chips and a drink were like $3.50. It was euphoria, man. It really was. Things have changed.
How I wish I
Yeah.
was there.
I'll during the break, I'll show you what the wedge cut looked like. I'm sure
I'm excited to see this.
There are people out there that still have photos of the old school way to cut the bread at Subway. And if there's any location that still does that, let me know, because I will go there today. I will go there and I will have a sub and I will enjoy every stinking bit of it. It'd be great. So we will get to the John Cook contract extension a little bit later on. Well, actually here in just a bit. But did want to get to the Nebraska baseball. I don't say news because this isn't a huge shock. But if you were wondering if Jack Caglione would be the starter for Florida on the mound, and when we talked to Kyle Peterson yesterday, he said if he had to make a guess, chances are it would not be Caglione. He could go in game 2. They could possibly use him down the road if they wanted to, and even a game 3 situation, depending on what happens. But he mentioned the name Liam Peterson, and that is indeed who is going to get the start for Florida, the freshman righty, Liam Peterson. So it will be obviously Brett Sears. There was no mystery there. Brett Sears bringing his 9-0 record into that matchup against Liam Peterson with a 5.83 earned run average. Peterson of the year is 2-4. And of course, Kyle's going to be out at that regional doing that one for ESPN. The I don't know, Peter, if this changes anything. I think from the time this matchup was announced, and even before we talked to Kyle yesterday, I think there's a lot of belief that you wouldn't see Caglione on the mound, but which is good. I think for a Nebraska offense, and I'm not trying to say Liam Peterson is any slouch. I mean, this is a guy that was an SEC starter, Friday night guy as a freshman. As Kyle talked about him, he's a guy that has had his, as you typically do see with freshmen, has had his struggles and in moments, but there is definitely stuff there that is very effective, especially when he's dialed in. You would think at this time of the year, I know the old cliche is you're no longer a freshman. When you get to the postseason of that true freshman year, you're a sophomore. You've experienced enough that you shouldn't have a lot of those overwhelming moments as a student athlete. But my concern from day one has been the same with Nebraska baseball, and that is the offense at times just goes MIA. And even when it looks like they're generating a potentially big inning, all of a sudden you get consecutive at-bats that result into either weak contact or swings and misses. Any type of advantage where you're not facing a guy that's got electric, overwhelming stuff, and Caglione does, even though he's going to be going to the next level as a more of an offensive power than he is on the mound. I look at that being a little bit of a break without ever seeing Liam Peterson throw and looking at the numbers and knowing that he has a propensity to give up some free passes. The strikeout to walk ratio isn't what you would probably expect out of most Friday night guys. It's not bad, but it's also not, a 60-10 ratio. And I remember looking at it yesterday. I believe it's 66-22 or 66-28, something around there. Anywho, to me, I don't worry about what Nebraska trots out there on the mound. I don't think anybody really does worry about what Nebraska trots out there on the mound because Brett Sears has been the guy all year long. Now, we'll get to him a little bit later on in the show, but the offense for Nebraska, what I hope more than anything is what they were able to find in the Big Ten tournament. And that's not just Josh Caron's eruption at the plate with the long ball, with 6 home runs and setting a Big Ten tournament record. The stories like Gabe Swanson and having 4 multi-hit games in the Big Ten tournament, given where he's going to be placed in the lineup. Yes, Josh Caron is going to be in the heart of the lineup too, but guys like Rhett Stokes, guys like Riley Silva, being able to get those guys on base. Rhett Stokes, who had a really solid tournament. Caden Brumball is another guy that you want to see have more of a consistent impact offensively. There were a lot of good takeaways from this offense during the run that they, quite frankly, had to get on. So I think that if Nebraska is to get out of this regional, now remember when they won the Big Ten championship game, that was a defensive game. They got just enough. And the 2 guys that I mentioned, Josh Caron with a solo home run to tie it up, and then you get Gabe Swanson, who goes 2 for 4 in that game with the go-ahead, what proved to be the winning RBI double. But guys like Cole Evans, you want to see guys like Dylan Carey. The random Mike brought up Tyler Stone. These are guys that at some point, even Joshua Overbeek, who I thought swung it pretty decently in the Big Ten tournament. You look at that lineup, and there are guys that have at times this season have gone on a little bit of a heater, but as far as this offense where it's been top to bottom, being able to attack a pitcher, not as much as you think. And the strikeout numbers are concerning. So again, I go back to this pitching matchup with Liam Peterson and looking at what Florida's going to bring. Florida, as we mentioned many times, and we'll continue to talk about, we're going to talk to Evan Bland about this matchup 9 o'clock today, that if this offense is not, let's say this, if they're being shut out in the first 3 innings, I don't like where that game is going.
No.
I mean, that's not to say, I mean, you got another 7 innings to work with there, but this is a team that Gary's referred to them as more of a front running style team, that if they get a couple runs early on, they start kind of feeling themselves a little bit, and then they're able to work with what they were able to accomplish. But you start stymieing this offense early in a game. I don't know why it seems to really, it almost kind of manifests throughout the dugout.
Especially when it's a whole lot of those 1 to 2 pitch at bats, where you like the aggressiveness and coming out swinging, but when it's a lot of those ground balls, not really getting anything into the outfield, so very similar to what we saw for a majority of the Big Ten championship.
Yep.
That's where you're kind of like, would like to work these a little bit longer, if at the minimum at least tax the starting pitcher,
Right.
Try to get into the bullpen. But yeah, I see what you're saying.
It's the soft contact or just some of the violent swings and misses that you know now things aren't going to change. Now, hitting, as we know, is cyclical, and it's one of those situations where if you're a confident bunch coming in, you get a couple guys that set the tone for you, that becomes contagious. But I also think the same could be said about weak contact and having a plan going up to the plate, but all of a sudden getting in the batter's box, the pitcher maybe takes you off the page a little bit, and that plan that you had is now scrapped, and now you're reaching for something. You're guessing at a lot of stuff, and that's not going to suit anybody well. I don't care how good of an offense or bad offense you are. But I've mentioned this a lot throughout the season with Nebraska, what their true identity is, but what they also maybe concern you with. And I know a lot of people were, I think rightfully so, concerned about this bullpen and what they did in the Big Ten tournament. I hopefully has calmed the waters a little bit and has given Rob Childress a bit of a blueprint of how they're going to attack, the arms that they can rely on, the guys that they know are going to come in and throw strikes. I don't know if Will Bolt, if Lance Harvell, if Mike Sirianni, if that entire coaching staff fully expects what they're going to see offensively from this team day in and day out. I think you know who your big boppers in the lineup are, your guys that more likely than not are going to be able to deliver. But I feel like there's been enough this season where this offense not only has gone to MIA, but it's been in weird moments where you're able to generate base runners, and then all of a sudden it's almost as if there's so much pressure to be able to get that clutch hit and it escapes them. Now, as I'm saying this, people are like, well, did you not watch the Penn State game? You're down 1-0. Josh Caron comes up, hits a solo bomb. Yeah, he did. And Gabe Swanson is able to work himself into a full count, and Penn State doesn't get the previous call on the outside corner, which it was a ball. I thought that was the right call. And Nebraska makes him pay for it. Yeah, that happened. But I can't look at that. I can't shake that feeling and look at it in a vacuum. I've got to look at the entire season. And the bigger picture is, if there's one concern that I have and one concern that I always have, is what this offense can do on a consistent basis. And again, the reason I'm bringing this up is I think there was somewhat of a sigh of relief when the pitching matchups were announced yesterday between Nebraska and Florida, that it wouldn't be Jack Caglione on the mound. I still am not doing a victory dance. I'm still not saying, yes, this is great. Oh my gosh, it's going to be a hit parade. Nebraska going to chalk up 10 runs. Hey, they might, and that would be great. We would take that. It's just not what I expect. I think if you're looking for Nebraska's best path for victory tomorrow and to get into a winner's bracket game against a good Florida team with one of the best players in all of college baseball, Jack Caglione, you're wanting to be comfortable in, say, a 4-2, 4-3 type game. I just don't. I have very little confidence that if Florida's able to get out to an early lead in the first 4 innings, it's a 5-1, 6-2 type of game, and you got to constantly chase them. That's not the type of game that Nebraska is suited for. Not at this level. Maybe at the lower half of the Big Ten, you can do that. But against teams like this, not the same Florida team it was a year ago, but still it's a Florida team out of the SEC. They're used to being in those types of slugfests. They're used to being able to have to win games by just out-offensing teams.
Yeah.
That does not suit Nebraska well. So let's keep this thing right around 5-3, 4-2. If you want to have an offensive eruption, that's fine, but make sure you're the ones that are setting the tone and doing that, and then you're holding them off as opposed to trying to chase Florida, because that's where I feel Nebraska starts really pressing at the plate. When they start to chase multiple runs, they're looking for the crooked number because they have to. It's out of necessity, not necessarily because it's still a tight game, but they're just looking to punch a hole in the game. Yeah, it's just not something that suits them well. I would rather see Liam Peterson than Jack Caglione, but I'm also not going to pretend that, hey, Nebraska can light that guy up, because I don't go into any matchup thinking Nebraska going to light that dude up, because their offense has not given me reason to think that on a consistent basis.
And the postseason's it's too unpredictable.
Yep.
Everyone's in there for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And there was talk that Florida, on the line, should they have got in. At the end of the day, it's a program that knows how to win.
Yeah.
In the postseason.
100%. As I mentioned on the show, we're going to be talking to Sarah Baker Hansen at 8 o'clock, Steve Sipple at 8:30, Evan Bland 9, and Brian Edwards at 9:40. When we return, the head man in charge for the Nebraska volleyball team is now become the highest paid volleyball coach, and should be. And we mentioned how he's going to spend that retention bonus as well. But a little bit of perspective of the news yesterday on the John Cook contract extension, and maybe the best part about that news that was given to us yesterday. As we get things moving here on a Thursday, glad you're with us. It's Peter, it's Nick, it is Mornings with Sharp and Handley here on 1620 The Zone.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com. For the Jays, the Huskers, and even you Jayskers, we are 1620 The Zone.
Are Nebraska craft beers and ciders important to you? Whether you just love Nebraska brewed beers and ciders or you're a full-fledged craft brewery, there are benefits to membership for anyone with the Nebraska Craft Brewers Guild. Their sole mission is to foster and help grow the Nebraska-centric brewing community. Become a member today at nebraska.beer and help advance the craft beer and cider industry in the state of Nebraska. Find out more about the Nebraska Craft Brewers Guild at nebraska.beer.
Howdy, Greg Wagner joining you from the Nebraska Game and Parks Commission. Time now for another Nebraska Outdoor Update. Hey, planning a trip to a state park? One of Nebraska's 76 state park lands? Excellent. But don't forget your state park permit, money for camping fees and other activities, a fishing permit if you want to wet a line, and oh yeah, a 6-foot leash for Scruffy, your pet. Thank you, and we hope to see you out there. By the way, you can get all kinds of information on the Nebraska State Park lands through the Game and Parks website. That web address is outdoornebraska.gov. Are you going fishing? I thought so. For proper catch and release fishing this season to ensure fish survival, I want you to remember these important things. Land the fish as quickly as possible. Handle the fish as little as possible. Keep the fish in the water as much as possible, and release the fish as fast as possible. Enjoy your fishing experience, and we'll see you out there. I'm Greg Wagner with Nebraska Game and Parks.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
This story is called The Ugly Truth About Timeshare. If you think you've done your family a favor by buying a timeshare, you need my help. Hello, I'm Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group. 10 years ago, I started helping folks cancel their timeshare. In the process, started Wesley Financial Group to do one thing: help people get out of their timeshare nightmare. When you buy a timeshare, the timeshare company can raise your annual maintenance fees at will. I recently helped a couple that had their maintenance fees go from $800 to $3,200 a year. They also received a $4,000 assessment for a hurricane that was over 1,000 miles away. Sound crazy? Stop the insanity today. Call my office now. If we take you as a client, I guarantee we'll cancel your timeshare or you'll pay nothing.
Want out of your timeshare? Call now for your free timeshare exit info kit. 800-462-3333. That's 800-462-3333. 800-462-3333.
You guys just didn't want it bad enough. That should have been an easy win. What were you doing out there? You got to hustle. You could have made that play if you'd been open.
On the car ride home after the game, when you think you're helping by telling me what I did wrong and what I need to work on, all I hear is that I'm not good enough, that I'm supposed to be perfect, that it's not okay to lose. On the car ride home, all I need to hear is how much you love me and enjoy watching me play, that my worth isn't determined by my performance, that even on my worst day, I am worthy, that you see me learning, growing, and doing my best. And that is enough.
This message presented by the NSAA and the Nebraska State Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association.
With Progressive, you get more than savings. You get access to us through our mobile app, online chat, or by phone.
Oh, I see what you're doing here, Jamie. Giving me all these ways to stay in touch so I have no excuse not to. Well, you're in luck, because this guy's in the market for a new BFF.
Actually, all our customers can contact us this way.
Oh, yeah, no, I was just kidding.
But I am always up for Taco Pizza! Jigsaw!
Get help from Progressive through the website, app, chat, or phone. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
The Zone Hotline is powered by 42 Degrees, The Source, by your mom's house.
eBay Motors is here for the ride. Go ahead, feel your engine. Admire that perfectly installed exhaust. Your vehicle's moving along this freeway like it was made from fresh installs and a whole lot of love. With eBay Motors, you get over 122 million parts to keep it running. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, they'll be the perfect fit every time. Plus, at these prices, well, we're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Now back to mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
There was a conversation that I know many of us were having before last year's NCAA volleyball tournament. And as Nebraska got into the Final Four and then eventually the national championship game, we wondered how many more of these would John Cook be a part of. There was, Peter, you probably remember this, there was a good section of not just the fan base, but the media. We were entertaining ourselves with that question of, And then there was the abrupt exit of Trev Alberts to Texas A&M. And remember the conversation then. Well, if you want to maintain continuity amongst the athletic department, it's time that John Cook answers the call to be the next athletic director. All of these different conversations about John Cook's future that didn't lead to him remaining as the head coach for the extended future was all put to rest yesterday. And John Cook, by now, obviously, you've heard the news. It broke right after we got off the air yesterday. And I know Connor and John and Josh have talked about this as well. It's a significant moment for this volleyball program because this is a contract that takes John Cook through the 2028 season. So this contract essentially is through January 31st of 2029. He's now the highest paid volleyball coach in all of college volleyball. Now, he got a $75,000 raise, so I don't know what his $750,000 compared to his peers was at. So if he wasn't already the highest paid coach in all of college volleyball, he officially is now. He got a $75,000 increase from the previous annual earnings, and he gets a retention bonus of $70,000. Now, that part of it is what's really interesting because you can't, I don't think in this day and age, you can't be a highly successful coach without having your own thing, without having that one thing that very interesting, mysterious, whether it's a personality quirk, whether it's a hobby, whether it's something that makes you stand out, you're like, oh, wow, that's interesting. And it really is when it comes to John Cook. As we know, he's a rancher, spends a lot of time in Wyoming. That's his getaway, his escape. That's his haven, if you will. And he had the team last year out to the ranch. They were riding horses. There was just cool team bonding experience, but it's something that he's very, very passionate about. And yesterday, while talking about this, you have the Troy Dannon statement on the new contract. Troy Dannon says, we are fortunate to have John Cook leading our volleyball program. He is the most accomplished coach in the nation and one of the top coaches in history of American volleyball. John's expectations are for nothing less than excellence in each and every endeavor, and his record reflects that. His influence with the department and the leadership he brings across our 24-sport program benefits Cornhusker athletics well beyond just the sport of volleyball. John's vision has been to establish Nebraska as a national leader in advancing and promoting the sport of volleyball, and this extension certainly represents the successful outcome of that vision. So as we talked about this $70 or $70, wow, that'd be pretty cheap.
All right, I will go no more than $70 increase. I'm going to put my stamp on this job as athletic director.
This $70,000 retention bonus is going to be spent and really directed in a very unique way. And this is, again, what makes John Cook stand out, not just his excellence as a volleyball leader, but just his passion for things outside of it, which I think everybody respects. So we all have the things that we do for a job, and you hope that you're lucky enough to be able to do something for a job that you're passionate about. But there's always the things that you do either with your family or as an independent hobby that you're maybe equally or even more passionate about. And what is going to be interesting is now, as we mentioned, he said and this is a statement from John Cook, said, when Troy and I talked about my contract, I proposed that instead of a annual escalating salary that some coaches do, it would mean a great deal to me if the Nebraska Athletic Department would consider supporting me in purchasing a horse out in central Nebraska that I've had my eye on. The horse, called number 415, was born and bred at the famous Pitzer Ranch in Erickson and is a once-in-a-lifetime performance horse. He was purchased as a weanling by Mark Ray and then trained by the Ray family. Troy loved the idea, and while they couldn't specifically write that into the contract, the retention bonus will be used for number 415. I am honored that Troy was supportive of my idea, and it means a lot to me. We are all looking forward to what should be an exciting 2024 season, and obviously John is looking forward to purchasing number 415. Again, I thought it would be really funny if there was a horse named 1890, but that's just me. So
I still love that idea.
And I don't know how many people initially caught this, because a lot of times we get these contract extensions. My eyes are trained to do this, and that is to look at the numbers, to look at how many years and how much money. How big of an increase is it? What's the annual salary? What type of bonuses and incentives are there? And again, the length of the contract. Then you usually get the athletic director will release a statement, and then the head coach will release a statement. And usually it's a lot of the same stuff. So as you're looking at John Cook's statement, you're like, wait, what? Huh? A horse? Yeah. And just true John Cook fashion, sticking true to that passion that he has outside of leading this Nebraska volleyball program. It's very cool. But I get back to the most important thing about that news yesterday is you have an additional 4 years of John Cook, which gets you through another recruiting cycle. It's a program that it's not that Nebraska was lacking when it came to recruiting. Obviously, they recruit extremely well. But now in the last few recruiting cycles, they have put together some elite classes. I mean, we're talking elite. And as we've known, and John Cook is one of the voices of progress in the sport of volleyball, of the amount of attention that it's finally getting. A lot of the modern impacts of female athletics, period, at the collegiate level, John Cook is one of those voices. He always has ideas on how to make the sport better, how to make it more appealing to the casual sports fans, but also to lean in on the strengths of the sport itself. There's a lot of things that John Cook does that he champions a lot of the cause and advocates for not just his team, but the sport itself at a bigger stage. But he also understands the changing landscape that everybody, and we talk about this with football all the time, but the changing landscape of doing business in college athletics. And if you want to do business, and I don't think we should be bashful about saying that anymore. You're doing business when it comes to going to the transfer portal and getting players. When it comes to name, image, likeness, which Nebraska has a tremendous collective in NIL. Rodney Yates, who put a lot of money towards the volleyballs, the collective, but earmarking that for strictly volleyball to the tune of around $5 million. It's good to be a Nebraska volleyball player. It truly is, between the coach and the coaching staff that you have, but also the amount of attention you get and the way that you are compensated. All of that is doing business in college athletics. I don't think it's taboo to say that anymore. John Cook understands that. So he continues to recruit, and his staff continues to recruit at an elite level. But he also understands the value of the transfer portal. He understands the quick fix. He understands, okay, maybe we're a little bit less experienced in the middle. We can find ourselves a middle blocker. Maybe we're a little less experienced on the outside. We can find that. If it ever comes, I don't think it ever will, because it seems like they always get a outstanding freshman setter, and then they're next in line with what is already a great setter there.
And it looks like they've been playing at the college level for 4 years.
Yeah, exactly. There's all of that John Cook does, that he's transitioned extremely successful to the modern day of competing at this level, but also how to build a roster. But when I think of 4 years, I think of another recruiting cycle that John Cook can see his way through. And I don't know if when we get to January 31st of 2029, or in that 2028 season, that John Cook will say, this is my last. Maybe there'll be another extension. I don't know. But what I would say is he understands now with this runway what he wants to accomplish, what he wants to build this team to accomplish. And there are a lot of coaches, I shouldn't say a lot. There are a few coaches. There are a lot of coaches that will take an experience like they had last year in a national championship and falling short and really getting dominated, and learn from that and say, okay, how do we not only get back to that spot, but how are we the team that is doing the dominating in that match? Not necessarily in the entire season, but in that match, getting back to that moment. And there are a lot of them that will dwell on that, but there are very few that can execute a plan that, if they're in that position again the following year, or in the year 2 or whatever, that they'll be on the winning end of that. John Cook is one of those people. This volleyball program is that program that you take a lump in a key match, you learn from it, you recruit for it, you build your roster for it, and you have a team that is extremely focused on it. I think even just the handling of the Harper Murray situation reflects on the type of coach that John Cook is, where you have so much influence, not only in the athletic department, but in this state, that you could have interfered with what was going on with Harper Murray. And you know what? To be honest, Peter, how many people would really question that? How many people would be like, that's okay, it's John Cook. But he didn't do that. He did the right thing. He let the proper channels take over, and he would check in. He would get reports. That's still obviously a fluid situation. But little examples like that on not only how you manage your team within the season, but also how you manage your team outside the season when you don't have control over the starting lineup, when you don't have control over the game plan, when your team is doing things on their own and they're out being students, they're out being young adults, they're making decisions, how you always want to control those situations. And that's where coaches get into trouble. John Cook knows fully his influence, but knew the best thing to do in something that was a pretty big deal and still is a pretty big deal when it comes to a very important player and her future on your program. They did it the right way. He did it the right way. There's just a lot of things that John Cook is about when it comes to the internal and external part of the operation at Nebraska, that if you really have ever asked the question, why is he so successful? Why is that program so successful? Sit down with him for about a half hour and you'll find out. And he's being compensated accordingly. He's being compensated the way he should be. He should be the highest paid volleyball coach in all of college volleyball. And he is. And the fact that we get another 4 years from John Cook, maybe that's the last 4 years we get from him. But what I get excited about is they have another opportunity to go through an entire recruiting cycle and to set their sights on exactly where they were a year ago, but to be on the winning end of that thing. And that's what everybody should be excited about with John Cook. It's a program that is, at times, I think we just take for granted because it is so good. We did this with football a while back. There was a time, and Peter, you may not even remember this, but there was a time that, we just went into every season expecting Nebraska would get you 10, 11 wins. The only question was, would they be playing Miami or Florida State? Or even, how would that Oklahoma game go? But everything else in the schedule you knew was win, win, win. That's a win, that's a win, that's a win. Starters will be out in the second half of that game, that game, that game, that game. And he did. And I don't want to say it got boring, but you just took it for granted because it's just, that was the expectation that that program had set, the excellence that that program had set. And it always takes a special coach to begin those expectations of what that product is going to look like. And that was Tom Osborne. Now it's John Cook with volleyball, where we don't worry. That's the great thing. When you can lose key players to graduation, or maybe you lose the occasional player to the transfer portal, which is the reality now. There are certain programs, certain coaches, certain teams in all of college athletics. You're like, ooh, yeah, that's too much of a hit. Can't really expect them to be a top 10 or top 5 caliber team like they typically are. Do we ever worry about Nebraska when it comes to when it comes to volleyball?
Haven't in a long time.
No, because it's in John we trust. In John Cook we trust, and you should. That's not blind faith. It's
earned trust.
It is. It's the equity that he has built up, and you're seeing him compensated for that. And again, putting together a final cycle of what I think will be some exciting seasons in front of, what is it, a volleyball powerhouse. Do we see more than just 4? Talk to me after 2 years. I think we'll know a little bit more. When we come back, that is in the 7:00 hour, Peter will have an update for you. We will get into more of the Nebraska regional matchup and the other teams involved too, because, it's not just Nebraska and Florida. They will eventually have to play either Niagara or Oklahoma State, but also a lot of important names that you will see playing college basketball next year that were in the NBA draft. And well, I'll tell you, this is where I will continue to look at the impact of this day and age of college athletics and say, for the sport of college basketball, it's actually a good thing. I'll explain that as well as we move ahead here on 1620 The Zone.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com with Gary Sharp and Nick Handley. From the Host Coffee Studio, this is 1620 The Zone. 1620 The Zone. Traffic.
From the Pyramid Roofing Time Saving Traffic Center. Heads up, we got stop-and-go traffic on westbound I-80 towards the exit ramp to 144th Street. Also slow goings on northbound JFK from L to the I-80, I-40 interchange. A reminder that we got long-term road construction closing Millard Ave in both directions between 144th and U, and northbound 72nd between F and I-80 still closed due to bridge work. Be sure to buckle up and drive safe out there. I'm Joey Colbert.
This time-saving traffic was brought to you by Romeo's Mexican Food and Pizza.
Enjoy Romeo's Grande Pizza and Taco Combo. One large 2-topping pizza, 4 soft-shell tacos, chips, and queso dip for only $29.99. Only at Romeo's. Carry out only.
Romeo's Mexican Food and Pizza.
Not your typical restaurant.
If there's one thing that you can count on every spring, it's that we're going to have to deal with some hail. J-Tech Construction is the company to call to make it right again. J-Tech Construction specializes in siding, roofing, windows, and gutters, even solar. They're trained for insurance claims assistance, and they can help with your insurance company. Turn to the team the Huskers turn to, J-Tech Construction. Use your favorite search engine to find J-Tech Construction online and schedule a free estimate today.
Success in today's electrical market requires your company to be able to adjust to an ever-changing field. A partnership with IBEW Local 22 gives you that flexibility with access to journeymen, apprentices, proven training programs, marketing assistance, entry into markets not available before, ability to expand and contract with changing market conditions, and a benefits package for you and your employees. Contact Bob at IBEW Local 22 for additional details at 402-980-7596.
My taco pie is really something special, and it can't be imitated. It starts with my zesty taco sauce, seasoned beef, onions, lettuce, tomatoes, mounds of cheddar, and mozzarella cheese. This pie is the real deal. For a limited time, build your own feast with the specialty pizza, like my taco pie, a one-topping pizza, and cinnamon monkey bread. Do yourself a favor and order. Today, Godfather's Pizza. Do it.
Hey, baseball fans, join the Blur Tailgate at Hilton Omaha this June for our 12th annual hospitality event during the College Baseball Championship Series. Book an experience for your clients or employees with an inclusive bar, buffet, TVs, music, and tailgate games. Secure your spot today and let Blur Events take care of all the work so you can enjoy the day. Plus, we're just steps away from Charles Schwab Field. Visit blurevents.com to book your group, buy tickets, or learn about sponsorships. That's blurevents.com, your college baseball and football tailgate destination.
Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. EquitableOnline.com.
It hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm like, I never smoked a cigarette. How in the hell did I get lung cancer?
I don't smoke. I've never smoked. So I started Googling. One word just kept coming up, like it was in bold and red, and it was radon.
Radon is the number 2 cause of lung cancer.
Well, you don't know if it's in your home. You got to test. You can't see it. You can't taste it. You can't smell it.
What's your level? Radon Defense Midwest can help. Visit radonradio.com for a special offer. That's radonradio.com.
The biggest pro football contests in Vegas are back. Circa Survivor and Circa Million are now up to $16 million in guaranteed prizes. 2 ways to win, no rate. Circa Survivor contestants select one team each week with no point spread. Last the longest to win it all, $10 million guaranteed. In Circa Million, make 5 picks against the spread each week for your share of $6 million guaranteed. Quarterly and full season payouts. Enter in Nevada, play from anywhere. Circasports.com for details. If you or someone you know may have a problem with gambling, call 1-800-238-7633.
Tickets for less. Best seats, best prices, no service fees. Shop ticketsforless.com. KOZ and Bellevue, Omaha, Council Bluffs. This is 1620 The Zone. And we're back. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
Update time, Thursday edition. Let's get to it. The Oilers have evened up the Western Conference Finals in the Stanley Cup playoffs with a 5-2 win last night in Edmonton as the series shifts back to Dallas. We've said it from the start, this one feels like it's going to go 7, and last night we got one step further to that. Spencer Schwellenbach made his MLB debut last night for the Atlanta Braves on the mound, and it was a pretty decent start, allowing just 3 runs in his 5 innings pitched. Staying on the baseball front, Jorge Lopez, talked about this a little bit earlier, had a meltdown it seems only a Mets player could have. getting ejected from the game, throwing his glove into the stands, and giving a post-game interview for the ages in which he called the team he plays for the worst team in probably the whole effing MLB.
Which is not factual, Peter. If we're going by records, sure, the optics aren't great. You're adding to those optics there, Jorge. But, I mean, really, the Mets, as a 22-win team, let me introduce you to the Angels, the White Sox. The Rockies are at 20. 2 wins over Cleveland, by the way. Awesome. But, yeah, I mean, so it's not – those aren't facts. It's just his opinion. It's one man's opinion, who unfortunately is going to be DFA'd by his
Yeah, and he's
his
getting
team.
DFA'd at some point today. We're going to get that news.
Yep.
And I forgot to check his account, but Steve Cohen, talk about not a great time to be an owner that is very public about the team and open about things. I'll have to see if he has anything to say about this. Poor Steve.
Really poor Steve.
The Huskers are heading to Stillwater, but also just a little bit away in Oklahoma City. The Women's College World Series gets underway today. 4 games set, every team in action throughout the day. This year's field includes Alabama, UCLA, Duke, Oklahoma, Texas, Stanford, Oklahoma State, and Florida. So some of the usual mainstays, some teams that are not there all the time. It should be a pretty good field this year. Keeping it local here, Union Omaha had another shootout victory in last night's Jägermeister Cup. Defeating Central Valley Fuego, and Wallace Lapsley further cemented himself as a shootout hero. Union just can't stop winning in these shootouts. Have you been keeping up with this Jägermeister Cup?
No, I have not.
It's a new competition that was introduced this season in USL 1. Essentially on top of the regular season games, there's a little mini tournament going on, and the sponsorship for namesake for the tournament is Jägermeister, and the tagline is "A Shot at Glory," which I think is just brilliant.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm loving the marketing there.
That is great. That is awesome.
Billy Andrews was selected as an NFCA All-American for the second consecutive season, becoming just the 10th player in Husker softball history to be a multi-time All-American. Congratulations to Billy. We just talked about it last segment. Coach Cook getting that extension through the 2028 season. A little snippet out of the release from Nebraska that I thought was very notable and could not be more true. Cook did more for the growth of volleyball in 2023 than possibly every other year of his career. Congrats to Coach Cook, and go get that horse. You have earned it. And did you hear? Baby Gronk is committed to Nebraska.
Oh, yeah. So
sigh. This is just the dumbest thing ever.
What? I don't even want to. This is the ball enterprise all over again.
It is.
The unfortunate thing, though, is at least Lonzo and then LaMelo, at least they were, I can't say young adults. Well, one of them was. But at least they were in their upper teens and had a little bit of an idea, had a little bit of a voice to speak on their own. You're talking about, what is Baby Gronk now? How old is he now?
Like, I think maybe 12?
Yeah, that's okay.
No way he's in high school yet.
Well, and then yesterday there was a tweet where he is literally sitting on a beach in between 2 scantily clad women that are sunbathing face down with thong bikinis, and the kid is sitting between them.
Not normal.
And posing at the camera. And I'm not even going to read what the delete. It's now since been deleted. But this dude's father, like I mean, I feel bad for the kid. I do.
Yeah.
Because now he's a marked man. Anytime he goes anywhere, he's competing in all these different 7-on-7 leagues and trying to market this kid. Now you've seen this run of, man, what is it? LSU, Alabama, all of these different, decommitted from this school and is now committed to this. And then yesterday, Nebraska was the most recent flip that Baby Gronk. And I love in all of these, it says, just note, this school has not offered Baby Gronk. This school has not offered Baby Gronk. This school has not offered Baby Gronk. There is no official offer for any of these schools that they're claiming to have committed to and then flipped to a different school. I don't understand this other than you have a psychotic parent who thinks this is funny.
And I, to those watching on the stream, I just edited my little name tagline for the day. I own it. I should have had it written better. I had it as "Go away, baby Gronk." I just corrected it. "Go away, baby Gronk's dad," because he's not complicit in what has been just an absolutely embarrassing public display of parenting. His dad's responsible for all of this stuff, throwing him into the limelight like this. And like you said, this is going to follow him forever, and it's going to make playing football not even enjoyable. I can't imagine this is an enjoyable thing for him. But
well, it was, I think 2 weeks ago, there's a video of this I think it was a defensive back. He's wearing the green jersey, and he's just trying to light up baby Gronk, and he's just talking about his dad and says, your dad is doing all that popping.
He's a marked man, like you said.
Yeah, maybe LSU should offer me. Maybe Alabama should offer me. And this is all you're going to get. And that is the unfortunate thing is you've got these, when it comes to helicopter parents, and you guys know what I'm talking about when it comes to these, I don't think to this extreme level. Again, I compare this to the whole, now I'm totally not Lamar Ball. LeVar, thank you. Yeah. LeVar Ball, thank you. I'm glad we've actually kind of forgotten about him. You could not turn on any station, whether it be sports entertainment related, and not see the Balls and LeVar Ball talking to this person. You would see him on sports shows. Then you would see him on Entertainment Tonight. Then you would see him on Good Morning America. I mean, he was everywhere, and you couldn't get rid of it. And it was obnoxious because you knew that it was all basically a marketing plan to try to, what they always call guerrilla marketing. Guerrilla marketing is just more, trying to get in your face, trying to get every possible outlet on whatever product you're pitching. And what the Balls were doing, and I shouldn't even say the Balls were doing, because there was a time that I think initially you start to look at who is this? Who's LaMelo? Okay. Who are all these guys? Are they that good? And we remember that it all started with, well, it didn't start with, but remember the Big Baller brand. That was always sort of the end game of launching this entire enterprise. And then you had the show, the Ball in the Family. And there was all of this that you're what is happening here? And meanwhile, we're seeing Lonzo, who looks like a pretty damn good basketball player, get caught up into this. But every time his dad would be talking, hell, Lonzo, who was at that point a young adult, looked like he had zero voice because his dad was doing all the talking for him. And there was all the different examples of him talking about how he played Michael Jordan one-on-one and all these just absolutely insane claims, but just to get attention on himself and on what they were pitching. I don't know at the end of the day what baby Gronk's dad is trying to pitch. I know he's essentially admitted that this is all a marketing plan, but for what? Are they trying to launch some type of sportswear? What, just to get your kid an offer? Because I'm sorry, when you go to these lengths, there are coaches out there that are going to say, I don't care how talented your 12-year-old is. If I got to deal with a helicopter parent like this, no, thank you.
No, it's a nightmare.
And what you are setting that 12-year-old up for, when that kid is going to higher levels and people are zeroing in on him, the amount of trash talking that this kid may not have even wanted to experience at this young age, but because his father has put him out there like that, that is some of the most irresponsible parenting. It's just, I don't get that thought process where people think this is a good idea. Man, you know what would be really cool? I am essentially going to exploit my 12-year-old, and we are going to get him paid. We're going to get him offers. Oh, this can't miss.
That's the thing. Like to this point in time, have they even received any sort of deal with a company? Like, is this just all smoke and mirrors? I don't even know.
I don't either. And
this just feels like even a worse version of what LeVar Ball did.
It is.
Because at least
it is. They were teenagers.
At least LeVar, as insane as he was for those few years, every single one of his sons have played in the NBA.
Yeah, I mean, they were good. He promoted and he marketed his kids they were good. They are good. So you're right. I mean, and at least you had something to go off of because a lot of their motor skills and their overall physical build, you could start to project what they could do.
Yeah.
A kid hasn't gone through puberty yet.
No.
And you're
has
putting
he
him
ever
through
done?
this.
Has he ever talked to anyone? Done an interview? Not that I want him to really be thrown in front of the camera.
Yeah,
because he has enough crap to deal with as is right now. But
wasn't Baby Gronk committed to Colorado earlier in the week?
That was the previous team before Nebraska.
So he's gone from Colorado. See, okay, now with Prime, doesn't that seem like that would actually hold some water?
Extra storyline for the Colorado game this year.
Oh my gosh,
the battle for Baby Gronk.
Yeah, I mean it's it really is ridiculous because I get it. You could look at this and be like, okay, it's obviously a joke. All of these schools, these something like 26 schools that he claims to have offers from, didn't really offer, and it's not a real thing. Just have fun with it. Well, can we ask this? Is the kid having fun with it?
That's the thing.
Does the kid enjoy this?
I doubt it. There's no. I don't.
And unfortunately,
he probably just wants to play.
The kid may not even know any better right now. Well, I know he doesn't know any better, but even if at first he didn't really care for it, you start going down a path because the people in your life, the adults in your life are telling you like this, oh yeah, this is fun. This is cool. This is how it should be. And you start buying into it and you start thinking that's the way it is. Kid's going to run his mouth, continuing to run his mouth. His dad's running his mouth for him. You start getting older. You start getting at a level where you're playing a very physical, very violent sport where people that have similar or even better abilities than you want to make a name for themselves by taking you out in a game, by trying to go after you outside of just the realms of normal contact. These are the things you set yourself up for when you do stuff like this. Has that even crossed the mind of Baby Gronk's dad?
All signs point to no.
You're going to get your kid hurt is the problem there. You're playing a sport where it's okay to be physical. It's okay to be violent because that's what type of sport it is. And all you're doing is you're throwing someone into a wasp's nest by being an idiot. Plain and simple. You're being an idiot. I don't get this. I never will get this.
No. Makes no sense.
I don't know if that was the last thing that you had on your update or not, but sorry.
Oh, no, it was.
There.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I knew it would spur some talking points. There's a lot to get to.
I would ask this question. Did anybody, when they saw the image of him wearing what I guess would be a Casey Thompson jersey, did anybody think that this was real? Did you actually need the reader's note or the correction, the X factoid that just to let you know that he has not received an offer from Nebraska? Did you need that, or did anybody think, man, Matt Rule, he continues to really think outside the box.
I am curious.
We are spending some serious quality. I mean, screw looking for a 2026 quarterback. Let's go after Baby Gronk.
I did know the context when I posted about it, but yeah, I am curious to know because at this point, if you aren't following it too closely, but you are in on the Nebraska recruiting news and you saw that, you're like, he doesn't look like he's in high school.
Now you got me thinking about the Ball family again. Whatever happened to LeAngelo?
I just saw something about. I just saw an update.
Is he like Cooper Manning?
Just the totally forgotten brother of the Frankie Jonas.
Everybody knows Lonzo and LaMelo.
Let's see what
LeAngelo played. Wasn't LeAngelo one of the guys that actually went and played pro out of high school?
I think he did play overseas.
Yeah, overseas. That's what I mean. That's what I meant. Overseas.
Yeah, I think he did. What is this guy up to these days?
Yeah, I'm just curious.
As of February, former G League player LeAngelo Ball has signed with a new team in Mexico.
Okay, good.
So he looks like he's still getting some ball.
That's good. Yeah, you know what? This whole conversation, I resent this entire conversation that we just had about Baby Gronk because I don't think you're wrong, Peter. It did actually make me tolerate more of the LeVar Ball antics because, yeah, you're doing all of that And LeVar was, I mean, it was, oh gosh, it was just tough to consume. But at least they were either college aged or getting ready to go to college. They were, at the very least, I think LaMelo, when all of this started, was maybe 15 or 16 years old. Not saying that that's good.
No.
But if we're comparing the two, between
it's certainly more
baby
ideal
Gronk
to be at that age.
Yeah. Man. But then it kind of comes back to, I sort of blame LeVar Ball too, because he planted that seed in a lot of people's mind. Not a lot, but in at least one person's mind. Wouldn't shock you if you found out that baby Gronk's dad was a huge LeVar Ball fan. Hey, that's a great idea. When my kid is at least 8. Yeah, it's, I mean, there's helicopter parents at so many different levels and so many different degrees. This thing is to the point that you are actually putting, whether knowingly or unknowingly, you're putting your son in harm's way. It's just unbelievably stupid.
If we're on the LeVar Ball train right now, an April 2024 quote from him.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen any new updates since then.
An April 2024 quote?
Yes.
Okay, so just a couple months ago.
Pretty recent. Talking about his son's various injuries. Because I feel terrible for Lonzo. Is he going to play again? I'm not totally sure.
I really don't know.
I'm not totally
sure. It was he had some crazy knee replacement or some type of knee operation that has not been done.
He keeps having to basically restart rehab. Hasn't played since 2022.
Yeah.
So hopefully he can get back to the court because he is a really fun player to watch. But LeVar said the reason they are hurt is because they got away from me and they start doing these Rudy Poo workouts. A lot of things have to do with them raggedy shoes that Melo be wearing. Them shoes are not made the right way for him. That's why he keeps tweaking his ankle every single time.
Oh gosh!
So
couldn't help himself, could he?
Big baller brand plug.
What were the first shoes that came out?
What were they called?
Oh, they were hideous too.
Oh, they were so bad.
I thought they were something like the, not Air Zoe, but they were like the Zoe something or.
Yeah, because they were the ones that were just black and looked like.
And remember, Lonzo, I think maybe wore them in a photo shoot, but in games he was never wearing them. In fact, he was wearing Nikes. But I can't remember.
So Melo got his own shoes too. Oh, the Zoe 2.
Zoe 2. Okay. Remember
2017.
I mean,
base price of $500.
Yes. I remember slides were costing over $200. If you got big baller brand slides, it was like
you just know
$200.
somebody out there bought both of those.
Oh, heck yeah, they did.
A cool $800.
Yeah, they did.
Payday.
I mean, he wasn't dumb because people were talking about it. I went to the site. I was curious. And then sometimes your curiosity takes over to the point that you're like, you know what? How funny it would be if I showed up to the next gathering with my buddies with a big ball, a triple B shirt. I got a big baller brand shirt. Or if I wear some very inconspicuous shoes that people are like, what are those? Oh, I'm glad you asked. Those are the Zoe 2s. The what? Yeah, big baller brand. You would at least be talked about. People would think you're pretty funny. I don't think they would think you're a sucker. They'd probably say, you're pretty funny.
A fun talking point at a party.
Yeah, you got the big baller brand shoes. Yeah. Then they're like, why are you wasting your money like that? That's where another conversation. All right. When we come back, want to get back into, speaking of basketball, we've got the Western Conference Finals tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about that and how can Minnesota keep it rolling. They got one win in this series, but we continue to look at that matchup tonight. Will we see Lively for Dallas as well? Also, Nebraska baseball, Florida tomorrow. We're going to talk about that matchup. Evan and Bland joining the show at 9. We got Sarah Baker Hansen at 8. Also, Steve Sipple at 8:30. We'll see if Sip is and the On3 folks are following the baby Gronk commit to Nebraska. It's huge news. Just really big news. A game changer for the class of 2031. Always good to be talking ahead of those future recruiting classes as we return here on 1620 The Zone.
Gary Sharp, Nick Handley, and Jimmy Chavez. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Weekdays 6 to 10 on 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com. Previously on Unsportsmanlike Conduct.
I read a book about the idea of aliens being a thing.
What is that, a new concept? Someone writing about aliens?
No. It talked about if we're going to find aliens, how we hope to find them.
Boy, that sounds like a really exciting book.
It was a great book. I ripped right through it.
Sean, this is why you don't have fun. You don't allow yourself to wonder.
I wonder all the time. I wonder how I've made it this long being next to you two.
Unsportsmanlike Conduct with John Bishop and Josh Peterson. Weekdays 2 to 6 on 1620 The Zone. Your Omaha area forecast from the Godfather's Pizza Weather Center and KETV Newswatch 7 on 1620 The Zone.
Impact weather for your Thursday, mainly dry in the morning with increasing cloud cover. Chances go up for scattered showers and thunderstorms in the afternoon and evening. A couple could be on the stronger side, otherwise breezy with highs around 80. I'm meteorologist Sean Everson from KETV Newswatch 7.
1620 The Zone. Traffic.
From the Pyramid Roofing Time Saving Traffic Center. Heads up, we got stop and go traffic on westbound I-80 towards the exit ramp to 144th Street. Also slow goings on northbound JFK from L to the I-80, I-40 interchange. A reminder that we got long-term road construction closing Millard Ave in both directions between 144th and U, and northbound 72nd between F and I-80 still closed due to bridge work. Be sure to buckle up and drive safe out there. I'm Joey Colbert.
This time-saving traffic was brought to you by Fernando's.
Spring, it's the reward for surviving another winter. Fernando's, it's the reward for any day that ends in Y. Great Mexican food, awesome margaritas, and a wonderful family atmosphere. Fernando's, Omaha's favorite Mexican for more than 30 years.
Hey, baseball fans, join the Blur Tailgate at Hilton Omaha this June for our 12th annual hospitality event during the College Baseball Championship Series. Book an experience for your clients or employees with an inclusive bar, buffet, TVs, music, and tailgate games. Secure your spot today and let Blur Events take care of all the work so you can enjoy the day. Plus, we're just steps away from Charles Schwab Field. Visit blurevents.com to book your group, buy tickets, or learn about sponsorships. That's blurevents.com, your college baseball and football tailgate destination.
Introducing Modern Real Estate, the game changer in Nebraska's property market. With a competitive 2% commission rate, we're making buying, selling, and investing more affordable and transparent than ever. Our experienced agents blend local expertise with cutting-edge technology to provide top-notch personalized service to all clients. Don't settle for less when you can save big without compromising. Visit modernrealestateco.com and experience the future of real estate today. Modern Real Estate, redefining the way you do real estate.
Forget the drive to Colorado or Missouri. Stop into any Omaha 42 Degrees and indulge in a curated cannabis experience. Premium flower, cannabis, pre-rolls, and cannabis accessories paired with an elevated customer service experience. All are waiting for you at 42 Degrees. From novices to connoisseurs, we're here to elevate your cannabis journey. 42 Degrees, your destination for top-tier cannabis, second to none product selection, and exceptional service. By your mom's house.
Nick, the NBA playoffs are underway, and our good friends at FanDuel, they're going to give all customers 2 chances to bring home a big win with a no-sweat same-game parlay every weekend of the playoffs. All you have to do is just place a same-game parlay on any playoff matchup, and you're going to get bonus bets back if you don't win.
That is absolutely 100% accurate. Bet on everything from rebounds to assists, three-pointers, whatever you can squeeze in there. So much more. Visit FanDuel.com. Use the promo code ZONE. Again, that's FanDuel.com/zone. And shoot your shot on America's #1 sportsbook. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. 21 plus and present in Iowa. Minimum 3-leg parlay required. Refund issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets. It expires 7 days after receipt. Max refund $5 unless otherwise specified. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-BETS-OFF.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same but is 95% cheaper? And you can get it online at hims.com/radio. Through HIMS, you'll get a free medical consultation to determine the ED medication that's best for you, discreet shipping if prescribed, a 100% online process, and a range of treatment options, including trusted generic alternatives to the name brands. at up to 95% off. ED is personal, and at Hims, so is treating it. Just go to hims.com/radio and get connected to a licensed medical provider online for free with zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, hims.com/radio. That's hims.com/radio for your free online visit. HIMS.com/RADIO.
Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. EquitableOnline.com.
Now back to mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
Going to the Equitable Bank inbox. And I didn't mean to do this. I blame actually Peter. Got to throw somebody under the bus because it was part of his update with the baby Gronk story. But Chris says, no! I tuned in and wondered why you were talking about that dip blank kid.
Yeah, I'll take the fall there.
And you finished the segment saying he committed to NU. Oh, please tell me you're kidding and that Matt Rule isn't feeding into that stupidity. Yes, there have not been any offers to a young man that is in the class of 2031. Yeah.
Listen to the community notes on Twitter.
Yes, the community notes on just about, well, I think every offer.
Yeah,
because I don't think you could actually offer a kid who's 11 years old, or he can actually commit at 11 years old. KDH 68760 says, the worst part is the kid won't ever play D1. Think of how many 12-year-olds that dominate don't grow much and become nothing. This poor kid's been set up for failure. Yeah, unless we're going to find out that we've all been punked, which is kind of what I think this is. The father has essentially admitted this is all a marketing plan, but they're, marketing what? What's the end game here? And what are we really doing? It's and hey, you know what? By even giving this airtime, we're part of the problem.
Yeah.
I
am the problem.
I got to a point with the balls. Gosh, that sounded bad. Let me rephrase that. I got to a point with the Ball family that I would only talk about the kids. That I would only refer to LeVar as Lonzo's dad, or LaMelo's dad, or LiAngelo's dad.
Which is the right way to approach it.
I would not, and I try to give it as very little airtime when everybody else was giving it airtime. I think that this is also a thing because it hasn't been a while. Well, it's been a while, actually, I think, since we've actually gotten into any type of baby Gronk conversation. In fact, I believe the only time that it's ever been brought up on this particular show was Gary and I talking about it like once maybe last year when it was, and that might have been during the Livy Dunn thing. Other than that, it's been an afterthought, and it should be an afterthought because parental stupidity, when you're trying to engage with an audience, the worst thing you can do is engage with that person.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the only airtime it will get. But yes, rest assured, Chris and anyone else out there, no, Matt Rule nor the coaching staff,
said our piece.
There has not been any type of offer to baby Gronk. That was a run of commits and decommits and commits to other schools. And if you've been, I don't even want to say, have you been following it? Because I'm not encouraging you to follow it. There was a lot going. There's a lot of activity this last week with about 5 or 6 other schools, Colorado being one of them, and then committed to Colorado, then decommitted and committed to Nebraska. Yeah. It's not real. It's not real. Let's go to the 42-degree hotline, the source, and say hello to Lance. What's up, Lance?
Man, what's up, fellas? Hey, Nick, now I want to talk about the parenting deal, helicopter parents or whatever, and recruiting and stuff. But before we get there, we got to have our daily quick little Chicago Bears segment, right?
All right, you going to talk about Caleb Williams not completing one pass last week in the OTA?
Oh, yeah. I didn't even know that because that's like I'm not feeding into that stuff right now.
Okay.
But what I did come across was he had a conversation on the pivot with Fred Taylor and Ryan Clark and those guys, right?
Yep.
And he said he had to pivot or felt a certain way when he went to Oklahoma, and they were like, well, the All-American and first draft pick Spencer Rattler was there. Like, that was what made you, like, you went there knowing, like, I was like, he just didn't either answer right or understand. Like, here's the thing. We've come to our society to where everybody has a voice now, right? Because of social media.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody doesn't deserve a voice. We don't need to hear everybody.
That is
Just
true.
like we don't need to hear Baby Gronk's dad. Obviously, we don't need to hear Caleb Williams. Just play. No more interviews. Just play football.
Yeah.
Let's just get better at that. Let's work on your media time and the off time. Your spare time, and then let's just. Oh man, I was like, don't say that. That doesn't sound smart. Like.
He's like, and Lance, I don't know how you felt about this, but when he first got drafted, I mean, he was, and he knew, I mean, he had months to prepare that his name would be called in the first pick from, for Chicago. That was a foregone conclusion. They just needed to get to the actual day itself. He did a really good job, I thought, of trying to fire up the Bears fan base and promoting the Bears brand and his overall recruitment, if you will, if Rome Odunze was available, that Chicago would go get him. So I think from the optics of him wanting to be there in Chicago, which was a little bit of the story going into it, is he doesn't want to be it. His dad was saying this, or Colin Cowherd was saying that they don't want to be there. And I don't think that could be further from the truth. As long as he shows that this is where he wants to be, it's what he wants to do.
Right.
I try not to put too much stock into what he says, because he's a different cat. Wouldn't you agree? He's kind of out there.
Oh, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't want to hear him.
Yeah. Just I want to see what you do on Sundays, whatever your thoughts on life are. That's fine. And I'm sure you'll have an audience for that. But for me, as long as you really want to be there and that shows on Sundays, you can say whatever you want. I don't care.
Right. I agree. I agree. I just like, man, come on, man. I just don't want to, like, us as Bears, we're so optimistic.
Oh, yeah.
It's been so long, and we feel like, and it's like, come on, man. But what's interesting about this recruiting dynamic with kids and parents, and man, it's a thin line, because like LeVar Ball, right? Like you had an inbox, somebody said on the inbox, well, he set him up for failure.
Mm-hmm.
He probably won't make D1. Well, I'm sure some people probably said that about LeVar Ball, and 2 out of his 3 sons were top 5 lottery picks.
Yeah, that's true.
Then all 3 of them had Division I scholarships.
Mm-hmm.
So, hey, you got to be careful on certain things. He obviously knew what he was doing, or had a plan, stuck to the plan, and that plan worked for him and his family. And then you got, and I don't even want to get into the Baby Gronk thing, but just if I was to say this, right? If I was to say a 40-year-old man is talking to your 16-year-old son without you being around.
Yeah.
How does that sound?
Not good.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
But when we throw football in there, we want to say, well, the parents need to let the kids talk to them, stay away. Well, hold on a second. You wouldn't do that in normal life.
Yeah.
But you think it's okay because somebody's a football coach and somebody can run a football or hit a volleyball, or, whatever the sport is, that it's okay for parents not to know anything of what's going on in conversation and talking to your kid. See, I don't think that's right either. I think there has to be some type of involvement, and I think you should want, if I'm a coach, I would want some parental involvement, because I want to know what type of kid I'm getting.
Oh, yeah.
Based on their appearance.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's with the Baby Gronk thing, this is more over involvement, where I wonder, does the kid even enjoy what's happening, and the fact that he's now going to be a marked man because there's just a lot of clapping at people. But yeah, your point's valid when it does come to the overall dynamic of, I don't think it's regular practice, but I think it's still as competitive as recruiting has been, and maybe, Lance, this is where the transfer portal comes in, where as a coach, you don't necessarily have to recruit the 13 or 14. I don't know that doesn't happen a lot, but the 14 or 15-year-old, because you have that resource of the transfer portal. But on that rare occasion that it does take place, if I'm that coach, hell yeah, I want to be around the parents or the guardians, because I want to get an idea of the type of structure that is in that person's life. I want to talk to their coaches as well. I want to talk to the adults around to get a better sense of the type of person that they are. I don't want to have those conversations and take everything that the kid is telling me back at face value, because how the hell could you trust that?
Exactly. And then, man, that's perfect. Great. That's a perfect analogy of that. And then you got, like, and then people go crazy on these kids. Well, this kid flipped, and he was committed to us. And like, man, these are kids. They tell you they like chocolate ice cream one week, and the next week they want, I don't know, cookies and cream or whatever, you know what I mean, or chocolate chip. Like, their mind is ever changing until they become an adult. And we want to bash young people, 18, 19-year-olds, and say, well, they should be an adult. Well, by whose standards?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, by whose standards? We got adults not being adults.
Right. That's exactly right. Where are the adults that should know better in those situations? That's where, and that's, we had a little bit of that with, with Dylan Raiola, with the committing, then the flipping, and there was a lot of people, especially Georgia fans, even Ohio State fans, that felt spurned by Dylan Raiola's flipping, and you immediately direct that angst towards the kid. Now, this isn't to say Dominic Raiola and their family is to blame on that, but I have a tough time, especially when you're committing as a junior. I have a tough time putting a lot on any of those players, and I don't care if maybe someone was committed to Nebraska, then they flip and they go somewhere else. I want to know more about what type of guidance they were getting, what type of situation do they live in, because everybody's situation is different from the adults that are helping guide them to those decisions, and everyone's financial situation is their own, is different too. So for us to just say, well, this kid clearly is not committed, he's there for the glory, he just wants to have all these big announcements, and he's a diva. I think you're probably stereotyping a lot of the kids that when they flip on their commitments, even if it's multiple times, that is a tough decision. And Lance, you know that. I mean, that is a really tough decision that you understand. If I'm making this commitment, I'm trying to do so with the reality that this is going to be the next 4 or 5 years of my life. I want to make sure I'm doing the right thing so I don't have to go through this process my freshman, sophomore year.
Right, like people are doing. Like the transfer portal, people are like, oh, people are transferring. Man, I'm telling you, if a guy wants to leave, or let's just say in a relationship, if a guy wants to leave, a girl wants to leave, let's just say a relationship, husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, man, you better take them on the first opportunity, because if they already got one foot out the door,
very true.
Let them go. Like, and people think like that's life. People move around, switch jobs, switch relationships every day of the week. But we expect 18 to 22-year-olds to not do that too when they're, playing sports. Like, we want to set different rules for different things that we want. You know what I mean? It's like a selfish act. Well, hey, it's not benefiting me, so that's wrong.
Exactly. Well, that's the whole crux of it right there. You said it right there, Lance. Is if I will be more apologetic or understanding of a kid's situation if he flips from another school and it comes to the school that I root for, because that's benefiting me. But if he leaves the school that I root for and goes to a rival or a different school, well, all of a sudden that doesn't benefit me. So now I'm going to make all kinds of judgment on that decision and what type of kid that is without ever sitting in front of that person and having one conversation with them.
Most definitely. Most definitely, man. Well, thanks a lot. I appreciate it, guys.
Lance, be well, my man. We'll talk to you soon.
Hey, you too. Have a good one. All right.
That's Lance. It's been a while since we talked to Lance, too.
Good to hear from him.
And Ryan in the stream says, this is full on exploitation of a child, completely unethical. What are we doing? I have the same question, but aren't we, Peter? Especially when it comes to sports, we're reminded of this. Whether it's you might go to a select game somewhere, and you've got 95% of the parents that are in attendance supporting their son or daughter there for the right reasons. They're being supportive. They're being a father or a mother or an older brother or an older sister or a guardian, whatever their relationship is, and they're there for the right reasons. But then you have that one or two
There's always a few.
Yes, that are looking at it of the greater glory of the scholarship. Well, my kid is not starting, or he's not hitting in the lineup in the 4 spot or the 3 spot. Oh boy, Will Bold is not going to like that. He's never going to get that Division I scholarship if he's not already starting at shortstop and hitting 3rd in the lineup at the age of 11 or the age of 10. And I got to go let the coach know that I think it's wrong. And I got to now go from parent to agent. That's my biggest issue that I've seen. And this is when we had these conversations. To me, this isn't the majority of family members, parents, guardians, adults that should know better.
It's the ones that are the loudest.
Yes, it's the vocal minority of it. It's the vocal minority of the parents that all of a sudden, when they get to the ballpark or they get to the basketball court, or they get to the volleyball court or the football field, they take off that parent hat and they put on the agent hat. They begin to promote their child. And back to Ryan's point of exploitation, it is. Because how many times when you go down that path as an adult who should know better, do you ever stop and say to the child, you having fun? Do you have fun doing this sport? Do you have fun playing this many games? Do you have fun being this competitive? Is my behavior make you uncomfortable when I'm yelling at the umpire? I'm yelling at the coach. Like, you don't do that.
It's like that spot that we run occasionally.
Yeah.
The car ride home.
Exactly.
You're here to tell me all the things I did wrong. How about I'm just excited to watch you play?
Right.
When at that age, that should be all that matters.
And if you have questions, if you want to, work on things, I'm here to help. I'm not going to nitpick on every little thing that you did wrong, or every little thing that the coach was doing wrong, or every little thing that the umpire was doing wrong. More than anything, whether you won, whether you lost, whether you went 0 for 4 or 5 for 6, did you have fun? If the answer is yes, okay, then we're on to something.
Yeah.
If you even have to think about it, maybe it's time to step back a little bit too. Again, this isn't, I'm not trying to get preachy or parenting advice out there, but when you get these rare examples, and they're rare, of what's going on with this kid, baby Gronk, I get it. The guy is, the father is trying to make some type of marketing ploy. The question is, what's the end game? What are you marketing? Is the end game a Division I scholarship? Is the end game just to get a bunch of followers on Instagram and to try to somehow be an outside the box thinker when it comes to being an influencer? I don't know. I do not know. But the only reason we're talking about this today is because it hit home because of a fake commitment to Nebraska.
Which is ultimately the goal of someone like.
Yes. And you do that because there are certain fan bases that will react. They'll talk about it. They'll get into it. And then you got people like us having to answer questions of, no, this isn't real. Because, and I get it. There are a lot of people out there like, is this really happening? I understand because of the amount of waves that it stirs. No, it's not real. But the fact that we have to address that is just absolutely silly. Jimmy says it very well in the stream, by the way. He said, people suck. Some people are great, but so many just suck. Yes, Jimmy.
Good stuff, Jimmy.
That is very well said. Very well said. All right, we're back after this here on 1620 The Zone.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley returns in minutes on 1620 The Zone. Now live on Twitch, YouTube, and 1620thezone.com.
Hey, you hear that? That's the sound of loose change in your pocket reminding you to buy a 99-cent medium fountain drink from Casey's. So the next time you hear this, you already know where to go. 99-cent medium fountain drinks. It's not crazy. It's Casey's.
At Cox Mobile, we know you're smart. You brush your teeth in the shower to save time, make coffee ice cubes for your cold brew, and wear goggles to cut onions. You also added Cox Mobile. So smart. Now you're running on the network with unbeatable 5G reliability and saving on your Cox internet. It's ingenious, just like you.
Aw, thanks.
Cox Mobile, the smart way to mobile. Cox postpaid internet required. Cox Mobile runs on the network with unbeatable 5G reliability as measured by Ookla LLC in the U.S. through H 2023. Other restrictions apply. Learn more at cox.com/mobile.
I'm Dave Austed. And I'm Ryan Austed. I think my first memory of golf is playing with my dad at a par 3 course. It was an absolute blast, and he always would have an ice cream hole. So if I got an 8 or less, we'd be going for ice cream. My first memory of golf really focused on driving the golf cart, being able to drive that cart. You were a crazy driver. I was a crazy driver, but it was what I look forward to. And what's really funny now, when I take my kids out play golf, that is the one thing, along with the snack bar, that they are most excited about. Focus on the good stuff. Play better, have fun, and shop Austed's.
My taco pie is really something special, and it can't be imitated. It starts with my zesty taco sauce, seasoned beef, onions, lettuce, tomatoes, mounds of cheddar, and mozzarella cheese. This pie is the real deal. For a limited time, build your own feast with the specialty pizza, like my taco pie, a one-topping pizza, and cinnamon monkey bread. Do yourself a favor and order. Today, Godfather's Pizza. Do it.
For the second year, the Nebraska Lottery's NASCAR Powerball Playoff promotion has roared into our state, and the excitement is throttling up. Until June 24th, buy a Powerball ticket with Power Play and Double Play. Enter the voucher number, and you could be one of 15 Nebraska winners of $1,000 and the chance to win a VIP trip to the NASCAR Cup Series Championship weekend, plus a shot at $1 million. Enter today. Powerball top prize odds 1 in 292 million.
Make the right call. John Higgins Weather Guard, or the roofery.
When it's time to replace or repair storm damage, make the right call. John Higgins Weather Guard, the local, trusted, and proven choice. No one has installed more Da Vinci roofs, and there's a reason why John Higgins Weather Guard is the nation's leader. Community member, community supporter. Make the right call.
John Higgins Weather Guard, or the roofery. Make the right call.
And we're back. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
Coming up, we got a busy 8 o'clock. I'm going to talk to Sarah Baker Hansen, also Steve Sipple of Husker Online, and then also Evan Bland. It's Nebraska baseball. They got out to Stillwater yesterday. They'll practice at O'Brate Stadium. And then tomorrow is the big day. Nebraska, Florida, 2 o'clock, ESPN Plus. Good to know Kyle Peterson is going to be part of the broadcasting crew out there. Something, Peter, you watch and listen to a lot of baseball too. There's just something about the man, Kyle Peterson, calling a game. We were talking about this off the air yesterday after we talked to KP. Very few do it like Kyle, where his baseball education is far greater than anything that I will ever experience in my life. But he presents it in a way that, there's some technical terms, but then also for common sports fans that maybe don't know the ins and outs of baseball, get what he's saying as well. He is that perfect blend. So we're looking forward to talking more about that series. It's an interesting one too. I got to know a little bit earlier about the pitching matchup, the concerns that I have with Nebraska's offense still, even after that Big Ten tournament run that led them to a championship. If those first 3 innings do not result in a crooked number, I get concerned. I really do. But we'll talk more about that with Evan in the 9 o'clock hour. Also, Brian Edwards before we get out of here at 9:45. Coming back, we'll catch up with Sarah Baker Hansen. Haven't talked to her in a couple of weeks. The latest in the world of food, restaurants around town. And hey, always good to start talking about some of those great summer patio spots too. All that and more. Sarah Baker Hansen coming up.
More with Gary and Nick after this on 1620 The Zone. Live from the Host Coffee Studio, this is 1620 The Zone. 1620 The Zone. Traffic.
From the Pyramid Roofing Time Saving Traffic Center, No accidents to report in the Omaha Metro, but we're starting to see heavier traffic on northbound JFK from Q to the I-80, I-40 interchange. Slow goings on eastbound Dodge from 180th to 144th. Heavy traffic flow on eastbound I-80 from I-680 to 72nd and on westbound I-80 from 60th to 72nd. There's slow goings on northbound I-680 from Center to Dodge and on eastbound Dodge from I-680 to 72nd. Be sure to buckle up and drive safe out there. I'm Joey Colbert.
This time-saving traffic was brought to you by the Nebraska Lottery.
Lotto America from the Nebraska Lottery is here. It only costs $1 to play, features a starting jackpot of $2 million, and has drawings Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Play today. Lotto America top prize odds 1 in 26 million.
Host is roasting every morning.
Host Coffee Services stands as the vibrant heart of every break room, offering the unique fusion of traditional quality and modern flair. We're not just your coffee provider, we're the center of memorable workplace moments. Call us today.
Proudly serving Nebraska since 1972. Host Coffee Services is always roasting something good for you.
Watching a ball game at Oscar's Pizza and Sports Grill is pretty awesome. Oscar's offers the MLB package, so your team is always on their upgraded audio-video system, and nothing is better than watching the game with a cold frosty one, Oscar's Pizza, or award-winning char-buffed wings. And with daily lunch and dinner specials, it's really a no-brainer. So get ready to watch your favorite team play ball at Oscar's Pizza and Sports Grill, 173rd and West Center Road, and takeout at 162nd and Maple.
Is your concrete cracked or uneven? Hey everyone, Coach Greg McDermott here to explain why you should choose Everlevel Concrete Repair. Many people think they need to replace broken concrete, but repairing it provides durable protection and comes at a fraction of the cost. Everlevel provides permanent repair solutions to fix your concrete and protect it against future damage, and it all comes with a long-term transferable warranty. They offer free inspections to walk you through the entire process. Call Everlevel Concrete Repair today.
So, Isabella, you're in high school earning college credits?
Tuition-free college credits.
Tuition-free? Your mom's gotta...
Love that.
Hey, Maya, hold up. You'll graduate from high school.
But my college gen ed's knocked out. Tuition-free.
That's gotta save you and your parents thousands in college tuition. How about you, Ian?
I'll be debt-free thanks to MCC.
Earn college credits while still in high school. Tuition-free. Get started at mccneb.edu/tuition-free. Classes start June 5th.
This is me at MCC.
Hey, baseball fans, join the Blur Tailgate at Hilton Omaha this June for our 12th annual hospitality event during the College Baseball Championship Series. Book an experience for your clients or employees with an inclusive bar, buffet, TVs, music, and tailgate games. Secure your spot today and let Blur Events take care of all the work so you can enjoy the day. Plus, we're just steps away from Charles Schwab Field. Visit blurevents.com to book your group, buy tickets, or learn about sponsorships. That's blurevents.com, your college baseball and football tailgate destination.
Tickets for less. Best seats, best prices, no service fees. Shop ticketsforless.com. KOZN Bellevue, Omaha, Council Bluffs. This is 1620 The Zone. Now back to mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
Hey, you know what that means. It's time to catch up with Sarah Baker Hansen. And we can say now with Flatwater Free Press, also sarahbakerhansen.com. She joins us here on the 42-degree hotline. Good morning, Sarah. How are you?
Good morning. I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. And now we didn't get a chance to catch you before the holiday weekend, but as we officially kick off the summer season, I know we've talked about it a little bit when it comes to this time, whether it's downtown, midtown, whether you're in West Omaha, Northwest Omaha, Central Omaha, wherever. Patios. I'm ready to. I don't even know if we could do a bracket of patios, but maybe like a mini summer. You know, College World Series has 8 teams. Maybe we could do like a mini summer bracket with patios because that's what's on my mind right now.
List.
Yeah,
we could do a list. Absolutely.
Yeah. So what are some of your favorite ones?
Well, I think there really I can't honestly think of a patio that I don't enjoy.
Yeah, because it's a patio.
Yeah, I mean, I love dining outside. I look forward to patio season every year. I would say definitely Old Market patios are
Mhm.
some of my favorites. I really enjoy, well, we can go into some specific patios, but I really enjoy the patio at Taco Co. in Benson, if you've
Okay.
ever been back there.
Uh-huh.
I enjoy, Benson actually has quite a few
They
sort of
do.
little hidden nook patios that I think are really cool. There's one behind 1111 Wine Company. There's one behind Krug Park. You could have found me on any of those patios in my years being in Omaha. I'm really excited. I saw online, I think yesterday or the day before, that the patio at Udalali, which was Mark's before in Dundee,
Okay.
has reopened its patio. And I know for a lot of Midtown people, that patio in particular has a lot of memories and has always been one of the more sort of, kind of homey patios in Omaha. So I was glad to see that one back.
You're right about Benson. And I feel like for a lot of the Benson ones, St. Andrews, I think, has a really cool one. I've actually watched a couple football games out there a few times,
Yeah.
but some of them are, if you go off the main strip, you don't even see them. They're either behind the buildings, whether it be a very well put together one or one that just has a couple of might just have a couple of picnic tables like Barshin. I love that one as
Yeah.
well.
Those are both really good.
And then we get into the rooftop patios as well, which I think, I don't know, can we call rooftop a patio? I think a rooftop is its own thing, right?
I think it's kind of its own thing. And
Yeah.
and I think there are way fewer of those. Like I think we could probably count the rooftop patios maybe under 10 that I can think of, that I know of. I mean, Pitch in West Omaha, of course, has a very popular rooftop outdoor seating area. The one in Blackstone, which is on top of that bar that I can't remember the name of.
Oh, yeah,
Little
yeah.
Ricky's.
Yeah.
And speaking of Benson, I'm pretty sure that that's coming here soon, that their rooftop patio or rooftop, outdoor space is going to be reopening soon as well. I've seen some sort of chatter online about that.
Good. Also, I want to get to one of your most recent reviews here too. When we're talking about summer, I don't think there's. I'm just a fan of seafood, so I don't think there's a particular time of the year that
Yeah.
it feels appropriate to really get into seafood. But something about summer and having some fresh seafood does sound good. And we've got a new place, Sandpoint, which again, by your description, sounds fantastic.
Yeah, so Sandpoint had kind of been just, I keep a list of restaurants that I'm interested in writing about on my phone. It's long, as you might imagine. And Sandpoint's kind of always just been like hovering in the middle. And I was curious about it. So I decided, let's go ahead and do it. So went there a couple times recently. Yeah, it's something that I think, we don't see very often, to your point, in Omaha, which is a restaurant focused primarily entirely on seafood, and also on one of probably the country's, more well-known seafood regions, which is Maine, sort of the upper northeast. That's where the owner and his family, it's a locally owned, family-owned restaurant, spent their summers in Maine. So had a lot of memories of kind of that area of the country. And as I was, dining there and trying the different dishes and stuff, I think, we've seen in the past maybe year or year and a half, like several lobster roll places pop up in Omaha. Like there's a food truck, and they actually own one of the lobster food trucks as well. But I don't think that there's been such a, focus on things like clams, for example, or mussels, or some of the dishes that we saw at Sandpoint that just aren't really very common in Omaha. So that's what intrigued me about it. And it's challenging, of course, to do a menu like that in Nebraska, as we've talked about with sushi. The same thing kind of applies. There are a lot of challenges when it comes to getting that product here and making sure it's fresh and high quality.
I got to ask about the crab cakes. Any good?
Yeah, I mean, the crab cakes were good, and crab cakes crab cakes are one of my favorite like appetizers. Like back when I did food prowl, we did a crab cakes appetizer food prowl merely because I really like crab cakes. Like, sometimes I just was lucky enough to be able to do things because I wanted to do them.
Right.
But yeah, they were good. Mostly crab. I did, sense a little bit of kind of filler or breadcrumbs or some sort of bready product in there too. That's not uncommon, but I thought the flavor was really good on those. I think the dish I left thinking about the most was the steamed mussels, because that's one of my favorite sort of dishes that I've had in Omaha. Previously, mostly I would get it at Dario's.
Okay.
And so since Dario's closed, I haven't really seen it on very many menus or ordered it. And I would say, if you, like me, also really enjoyed that mussels dish at Dario's, you should go to Sandpoint, to try the mussels, because they were great. You could tell they were really high quality. They do house-made focaccia with that dish that was also really good. And the broth, which is sort of 50% of what I love about steamed mussels, and dipping that focaccia in that sort of seasoned white wine broth at the bottom of the bowl was just absolutely delicious. So that was probably my favorite thing of everything we tried.
That sounds great. We're talking to Sarah Baker Hansen here on 1620 The Zone. Before we get off of this particular restaurant too, now, anytime my wife annually goes to Boston, and when she does, there's this, I don't know the name of it, but it's over by Harpoon Brewing. It's right off of one of the, I guess you'd say, one of the ports, if you will.
Yeah.
And it's just this little hole in the wall seafood place. And it is without question the very best lobster roll that either one of us have ever experienced. So I know when coming back to Nebraska, going to seafood places, very few places you can find a lobster roll. And if you do, it's not going to hold a candle to what you had maybe in Boston, or, as you mentioned, out there in the Northeast.
Right.
Did you get a chance to try the lobster roll there?
We did. They have two varieties of lobster roll. They have the warm one and the cold one. So that we tried the warm one. And, I think the thing about a lobster roll is it's not going to be very big. So if you're like extra hungry or thinking you're going to get like a $5 footlong situation here, you are not. It is small and it's expensive. And, lobster is, I think, one of those kind of premium ingredients that just simply costs more, I think, probably most everywhere. But especially in, the middle of the country where it's definitely not widely available. So the lobster roll is $25. It comes on kind of a little toasted brioche roll. It was good. I mean, the lobster was very fresh. I think all of the seafood that we tried was fresh. What was interesting about that night was that we had actually ordered the clam roll. But a couple of members of the kitchen staff came out and they were like, hey, the clams aren't up to snuff tonight, basically. What would you like instead? And so I kind of, instead of giving them like a ding for that, I actually gave them props for that. Because if you order like a lobster roll or a clam roll and the seafood isn't fresh, like you're immediately going to have a bad experience, right? Like that's just not going to be good. So I kind of appreciated that they were honest about the fact that this is hard. And that, sometimes the product isn't what they hope it would be. And so in those cases, they don't serve it. And so, the lobster roll, it was good. The seafood was very sweet. It had a good texture to it. It wasn't chewy. I mean, the brioche, you can't really go wrong with brioche. So I felt like it was a really, it was a good indication of what a lobster roll can be. And they obviously, started with lobster rolls at the food trucks, and those have been popular for them as well. So I think they kind of have a good idea of what it's supposed to be, versus just kind of throwing it on there just because it, kind of needs to be there if this is the area of the country or restaurants focused on.
So this is the time of the year that we also start to, we'll be welcoming in new visitors in a couple of weeks for the College World Series. And we've really seen different parts of downtown, I wouldn't say cater to out-of-town folks, but create variety for not only the local flavors, but all kinds of flavors. Millward Commons, and we've talked about it a lot, they have continued to put up a lot of great options out there, whether we're talking about the Sweet Tooth or something a little bit more hearty. I know not that long ago, this month, you were out at Dolomiti, the pizzeria out there as well. This to me, Sarah, seems like we're going to continue to be talking about that area, and especially as we get closer to the College World Series, if fans were here a year ago from a different state, they're coming back and they're seeing that place grow even more. That is going to be a hot spot.
Yeah, for sure. And, it's funny because I have, been going to the College World Series, obviously, since I was a teenager, when it was at Rosenblatt. And, when it moved over to the North Downtown area, a longtime friend of mine, his parents had a tailgate where, next to where Millwork Commons is. And it was literally like a gravel lot.
Yeah.
And there was like nothing around there really. And to see that now it's been completely transformed. I mean, even for me as a pretty much a lifelong Omaha resident, to see the transformation over there is pretty incredible. And for those College World Series visitors going down to the stadium, I think that is just going to be totally eye-opening for them. I mean, the fact that there's, the breweries down there, Dolomiti, Coneflower Creamery, there's a new Heirloom Fine Foods lunch spot in there. There's a couple other lunch spots. There's a skate park. I mean, just to see like what's happening over there is quite astounding, I think. And so I hope visitors, will be checking those places out. And I've written so many stories over the years about the College World Series and about how, the old market oftentimes isn't as busy during the series as people think it's going to be because it's a little further away from the stadium. And I do wonder, like, what is going to happen in that North Downtown area now that is right across the street from the stadium? Like, what are they going to get slammed? Like, how is the College World Series sort of going to affect this neighborhood? And I think that'll be really interesting to see.
And you made me think of it when you brought up Rosenblatt. And I remember that was one of the things that if you went a little bit further down 13th, you could stumble upon some places. But right next to the stadium, there wasn't much other than Starskis. And we remember the different challenges at Starskis. And, to be honest, when you had, at the time, I guess, TD Ameritrade Park, now Charles Schwab Field, when that opened up, directly around the ballpark, there wasn't that much. You still were primarily going to the old market.
Yeah.
I don't know how much the ballpark itself, and you would know this better than I would, the ballpark itself really did influence the growth that we've seen, especially when it does come to eating options in North Downtown. I would assume it had a little bit to do with it.
I mean, I think so. I think back to kind of the time that you're thinking about. And I remember, Blatt opening, and then they opened that sort of like satellite location of Zesto right next to the park, which was totally based on nostalgia of people knowing that name from the Rosenblatt era. And I mean, that's a roof patio that isn't open all the time, but like, man, what a cool idea to have opened that. I mean, it gives you like Wrigleyville vibes a little bit. And that's just such a good idea. And then, the complex where Film Streams is, there's another brewery over there. And of course, that pizza place on the corner that does I believe it's a shot contest, which I.
Oh, yeah. Rocco's. Yes.
Happily admit I have never partaken in.
There's always this year.
But yeah, it's interesting to see like what's happened in North Downtown. And what also is cool about the North Downtown development is that it seems to be, sustaining itself without necessarily having to have the College World Series, right? Like if you go over there, like there's people at Dolomiti, there's people in line. I mean, for the first time a couple of weeks ago, Matthew and I were over there and we saw a line outside of the North Downtown Coneflower Creamery, which was really a sign for me that, okay, like this is happening. Like people are over here, waiting. We would sneak over to the downtown Coneflower because there wasn't a line and now there is. And so I think it's just a sign of how much that neighborhood has grown. And it'll be, like I said, it'll be really interesting to see kind of where the CWS fans land and what they'll be eating and drinking this year that they haven't had in such close proximity in the past.
Can I ask you, before we let you go too, and we mentioned just the most recent review, which you can either get at the Flatwater Free Press, also SarahBakerHanson.com, where you'll still see reviews. What do we got coming up, or can you at least hint to the direction we might be going for the next review?
Well, I can tell you that the place I'm reviewing next week has been mentioned today.
Okay.
So we have talked about it, and I'm excited to write this one. And yeah, I've got some. We've got some different types of things coming that I'm excited to share that I think will be really popular with readers. And if you are hoping to get my reviews in your email inbox every week, you can go to Flatwater Free Press and sign up for the Omaha newsletter. That's where my reviews come out every other Thursday. So that's the new home. So yeah, flatwaterfreepress.org/subscribe is where you can sign up for that.
All right. We look forward to that. Sarah, always appreciate you coming on. Have a great rest of the week.
All right. You too. Bye.
It's Sarah Baker Hansen, always giving us some good stuff and always making me really hungry too, because now I got lobster rolls on the mind right now, have you had a lobster roll?
I don't think I've ever had a lobster roll, but
it's
now
okay, Peter. I didn't have mine until I was in my 30s.
But now I really want one.
Yeah, they're good. And I would also agree. This was pointed out by Jimmy on the stream that even though, and Sarah's right, they're not a huge. She said a $5 footlong. If you're hoping to get that, that's not what they are. But they are when done right. Especially this place in Boston. I had a tiny little bowl of clam chowder because you just have to do that when you're in Boston because it hits better. It's fresh. But if they are done right, the lobster roll on top of maybe a cup of soup, yeah, you're good. It's going to be more than enough.
What did Jimmy say? Oh, small but hefty.
Yeah, small but hefty lobster roll is filling. Yeah, and he's right. I would definitely agree.
It took me up until a few years ago to have my first crab cake.
Yeah,
and I had one when I traveled to Costa Rica last year, and I think that might have been probably the best crab cake I've had. But yeah, lobster roll, I can't speak to that, but now I do really want to try one.
Sal Bass, which again is one of my favorite handles. If you're a Seinfeld fan, you know. Sal Bass says they need to take out the parking in the main old market streets to expand patio dining. You see it in bigger cities, and it creates more foot traffic. Yeah, in fact, I saw that in all places. Sal's right. I saw that in all places in downtown Cleveland at a place we're at where you have a lot of the outdoor patios expanding what you could tell was probably a one-way street in their downtown area. That is a big deal. And I do wonder, obviously not every street, but being able to have a couple of at least maybe the main drag, whether we're talking about Howard or I don't know, maybe Jackson, but you do have one of those sectioned off to where you can expand patios out where you're almost corresponding with the across the street patio too. It's just it's a great vibe. And that's what you get at this time of the year too, where everybody's out enjoying the great weather. And yeah, if you got a patio, it's hard to screw up a patio. I think
it is.
It's
especially this time of year in Omaha when there's going to be so much foot traffic outside.
Yeah, you get the people watching, you get to
say hi to people,
cold drinks, warm food, and
oh yeah,
everybody is happy.
The smells draw people in.
Yes, very, very true. When we return, why the new way of doing business in college athletics continues to excite me about college basketball. We had big examples of that yesterday, and I'll tell you about that. We also have Stephen M. Sipple making his way on the show here in just about 15 minutes as we continue here, 1620 The Zone.
Gary Sharp, Nick Handley, and Jimmy Chavez. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Weekdays 6 to 10 on 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com. Previously on The Crossover.
I opened up my fortune cookie last night, and on the front it says, here you could download a bunch of music. And then on the back, there's a QR code for Napster.
Yeah, fortune cookies used to be fun, whimsical. At the end of your chicken fried rice, you're like, boop, boop, boop.
Boop, boop, boop. That's exactly what I did
we
last
had Chinese the other night. I don't think we ever got fortune cookies.
Even worse.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley. The Connor Happer Show. Unsportsmanlike conduct. 6A to 6P. 1620. The Zone. Your Omaha area forecast from the Godfather's Pizza Weather Center and KETV News Watch 7 on 1620 The Zone.
Impact weather for your Thursday, mainly dry in the morning with increasing cloud cover. Chances go up for scattered showers and thunderstorms in the afternoon and evening. A couple could be on the stronger side, otherwise breezy with highs around 80. I'm meteorologist Sean Everson from KETV News Watch 7.
1620 The Zone. Traffic.
From the Pyramid Roof and Time Saving Traffic Center, No accidents to report in the Omaha Metro, but we're starting to see heavier traffic on northbound JFK from Q to the I-80, I-40 interchange. Slow goings on eastbound Dodge from 180th to 144th. Heavy traffic flow on eastbound I-80 from I-680 to 72nd and on westbound I-80 from 60th to 72nd. There's slow goings on northbound I-680 from Center to Dodge and on eastbound Dodge from I-680 to 72nd. Be sure to buckle up and drive safe out there. I'm Joey Colbert.
This time-saving traffic was brought to you by the Nebraska Lottery.
Lotto America from the Nebraska Lottery is here. It only costs $1 to play, features a starting jackpot of $2 million, and has drawings Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Play today. Lotto America top prize odds 1 in 26 million.
I'm Ryan Osted. Golf is great because it can be whatever you want it to be. If you want to go out and have a competitive 18 holes, you can make it that. If you want to go out and have a scramble and just have the time of your life, if you want to have a charity golf tournament to raise money for some great cause, you can make it that. It is flexible to be whatever you need it to be at that particular moment in your life. And I've needed golf to be different things at different points in my life. And I'm certainly thankful that I was able to learn the game as a kid and continue to play it now as an adult.
Play better, have fun, and shop Osted's.
No better time than now to focus on your garden or landscape. Come shop Lanahaw's Garden Center, filled with the area's best quality plants, flowers, and trees. Rooted in quality, unmatched value. Lanahaw Nurseries, 192nd and Center.
Hi, this is Doug Nodgard with Equitable Bank. Great service never goes out of style. When the digital age dawned, many said computers would be able to handle many of the interactions that used to take a person. Boy, were they wrong. How many times have you called your bank and gotten a recording to press 1 or 2? Not at Equitable. Not only does Equitable answer your call in the first ring, it's answered by a human being. That's because Equitable Bank values its customers. Equitable Bank, we take banking personally. Member FDIC.
Getting quality employees to fill positions in your company is essential, but finding those people can be a major hassle, unless you use ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter makes finding quality people a breeze. And right now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. With ZipRecruiter, one click sends your job to hundreds of top job sites. But more than that, ZipRecruiter's advanced technology identifies the candidates with the skills you need, sends you a list of great matches to review, then actively invites them to apply for your job. And the results speak for themselves. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. That's right, the first day. Now you can focus on your business and let ZipRecruiter do the work finding the best people for you. See for yourself. Experience the ease, efficiency, and power of ZipRecruiter for free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter.com/radio.
Nominations for the Step Forward Awards are now open. These awards are the state's most prestigious awards for volunteerism, and we need your help to find outstanding volunteers from your region of the state. If you know a volunteer who deserves to be honored for their service, visit serve.nebraska.gov and click Nominate Now. Made possible by sponsors like Omaha Public Power District. Nominations must be submitted by June 1st. Paid for by Serve Nebraska, aired by the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
And we're back. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
Going to be talking to Steve Sipple here in just about 10 minutes, but wanted to get to the college basketball news yesterday as the deadline to remove your name from draft consideration came and went, and there were some notables that will be returning to their respective schools. Hunter Salas is returning to Wake Forest. So the Millard North product, the one-time Gonzaga player, now at Wake Forest, and just had an electric season, a breakout season with Wake Forest. And in a lot of different mocks, was considered to be a potential late second-round guy. It's kind of dependent on where he would fall in the mix. He is coming back to Wake Forest. Also, that's right. A team that, just looking to get to the NCAA tournament, man, what Hunter Salas did, that was awesome to see.
They had some impressive wins last year.
They did. They absolutely did. UConn, which will try to make it a three-peat, got good news yesterday. Alex Caravan will be returning to UConn. You also have Caleb Love returning to Arizona, the former Tar Heel and current Wildcat, will come back for another year at Arizona. This one continues to just beef up what I think. I know a lot of people are putting Kansas as the preseason number one right now, but it is tough to not at least consider what Alabama is going to look like, because Alabama got the good news yesterday that I think from most people's standpoint expected, but you just never know. And that is they will have the return of not one, but two outstanding players, and being able to welcome back Mark Sears. And also, while we're talking about Alabama, Jaron Stevenson as well will be making his way back. So you've got those two coming back on top of what should be already be a very loaded roster. This one with some local flavor because, hey, we like to talk Big Ten basketball, and, well, we like to sometimes talk Iowa, whether it be good or bad. Iowa got some really good news with Peyton Sanford returning to Iowa City as they try to get back to the NCAA tournament after missing it last year. So that is one that I think obviously is huge for the Iowa Hawkeyes. Also, speaking of Big Ten, you do get a former Big Ten player returning, but he will be playing elsewhere. He did enter the transfer portal. He did put himself into the NBA draft consideration. He has removed that, but that is Coleman Hawkins. Basically, I would say the sidekick to Terrence Shannon, that he is going to be coming back to play college ball after going through the pre-draft process for the second consecutive year. He's elected to return to school and now becomes one of the top transfer portal targets because he will not be going to Illinois. So the reason I say the transfer portal, the pre-draft process, everything that basketball has to offer its student athletes, and being able to gather information and being able to make wise decisions on where they currently stand when it comes to only a 2-round draft, but also a potential of playing in the Pro League and playing in G League, is you not only get the feedback, but you now also have that opportunity where you can get representation, you can get somebody to guide you in that process. And it seems like the coaches throughout all of college basketball have embraced this. They are very candid with the players. They're very supportive with the players when it comes to that. And I think a lot of them, I think a lot of these college basketball coaches have a pretty good idea, even if they're not going to return to that school in particular. You understand which guys are going to continue to play college basketball, as opposed to, well, this one's a no-brainer. He's going. Now, the one that isn't a shock, but we'll have to maybe get into this later, is Bronny James. Now, he had the real big health scare at the beginning of the season with his heart. He is going to remain in the NBA draft. Obviously, there's that push that he hopes to be able to maybe get drafted by the Lakers and be able to play alongside his father while LeBron is still playing. When it comes to overall talent amongst the draft class, yeah, Bronny James is not going to be one of those guys that is a lottery selection or should be. This is more of the path, the plan that always existed for Bronny James. He had the major setback with the heart condition. He was a McDonald's All-American. Not to say that Bronny James is a bum when it comes to the rest of this potential draft class, but you know, where he gets drafted compared to where he should get drafted could be two completely different conversations. The reason I like where college basketball is when it comes to NIL is because you have guys that are making business decisions to stay in school as opposed to making business decisions to leave school, whether that's to play overseas, whether that's to, you know what, just get that G League contract and, you know, make a few $100,000. That a lot of these basketball programs, a revenue generating sport, and especially the Blue Bloods, they are providing a very lucrative incentive to come back and to play for those schools. And Peter, I grew up in a time when you didn't have the one and done, that the one and done thing was so much further down the road that you would watch some really great basketball programs and some dynasties and some runs occur because you had rosters that were old. You had
the key pieces stuck around.
Absolutely. And that's why the Michigan Fab Five story was so rare, because you just never saw that. You never saw 5 freshmen that were actually getting a start. And then if they did, guess what? The following year, they were gone. So to see them also as sophomores as well, that was also extremely rare. That became commonplace, where it was a lot of one and done. So you would see the Dukes of the world, the Kentuckys, the Kansas, and the Blue Bloods of college basketball in their best years. There was typically their either leading scorer, top 2 leading scorers were at the very least a junior or a senior, because you could hold on to those guys, because you didn't have that avenue where you could just, after 1 year, head into the NBA. Now we're starting to see that come back a little bit, where rosters are able to get old. Now there's always going to be the erratic activity when it comes to transfer portaling. So just because you're able to have a lot of older players playing college basketball doesn't necessarily mean they're going to stick with the same team. And this is kind of the similar situation we talk about with football of roster retention. It's one thing to have experienced guys, but how many guys are you getting that are homegrown from the day that they get to that school, that by the time they get to their junior year, they're still with you and having an immediate impact? That's the revolving door that is now college athletics. But if you're able to have one of those programs, or you're one of those coaches that has that secret sauce, if you will, to keep guys on campus from the time that they start, you start getting those guys into their sophomore and junior year, and you're building around them. You've got that core that's been there from day one, and all of a sudden you've got a older staff. As Gary likes to say, you get old and you stay old. For college basketball, to me, it makes for a great product. It's not as unpredictable. The only exception to the inexperience of the one and done era that it never really showed was 2012 Kentucky, Anthony Davis's team. Now, they had a couple of veteran players that were more role pieces, but your main cogs were one and done type players. They never showed that inexperience or immaturity. They lost 1 game that year, and that was in December to Indiana. So that's the exception. A lot of the times that we saw these extremely talented freshman loaded teams that were, again, they were loaded because they had a lot of talent, but they didn't have the experience. You would typically see that lack of experience show up on the big stage. So now you get into the NCAA tournament where you've got veteran and older, very experienced college basketball players. Even if they haven't played for that team the entire time, they played enough college basketball where I think naturally it just makes for a better product. It makes for better basketball to watch. It's just the way I've seen it. And I think we're going to continue to go that way because you do now have financial incentive to stick around as opposed to the financial incentive to leave. Even if you're not overly enthusiastic about college, about being a student.
Yeah.
You're overly enthusiastic about being able to play the sport you love and getting paid. That's the
win-win.
Exactly. That's why you're seeing these rosters with a lot more sophomores and juniors that are in impactful roles, not necessarily sophomore and junior reserve type players. You're seeing a lot of those guys that are in starting positions, guys that are like, oh yeah, that is definitely a guy that you'll be lucky to have for 1 year. Oh, all of a sudden, NIL allows that person to come back because they can make some money and they can continue to work on their game. They can increase their stock in the NBA draft. I think it's good for the sport. I truly do. All right, we're going to switch it over, talk a little Husker football, also some Husker baseball, as Steve Sipple of Husker Online and 93.7 The Ticket joins us after this.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com. Omaha's most listened to all sports radio station. Again and again and again. 1620 The Zone.
Make the right call. John Higgins Weather Car, the home of the roofery.
When it's time to replace or repair storm damage, make the right call. John Higgins Weather Guard, the local, trusted, and proven choice. No one has installed more Da Vinci roofs, and there's a reason why John Higgins Weather Guard is the nation's leader. Community member, community supporter. Make the right call.
John Higgins Weather Car, the home of the roofery. Make the right call.
The world's largest sports book in Las Vegas is available right at your fingertips in Iowa. The Circa Sports Iowa app is sports betting the way it should be. Bet anywhere in Iowa and experience high betting limits, tight money line splits, and exceptional customer service. Download your new bookie today. Visit circusports.com and start betting like a pro from anywhere in Iowa. If you or someone you know may have a problem with gambling, call 1-800-238-7633.
Host is roasting every morning.
How does Host Coffee Services provide the best coffee for your workplace? By finding the richest and most robust coffee beans from all around the world and bringing them to our Nebraska roastery, where your coffee is roasted fresh and delivered straight to you.
Proudly serving Nebraska since 1972. Host Coffee Services is always roasting something good for you.
News Talk 1290 Coil is your radio home for Omaha Storm Chasers baseball, proud AAA affiliate of the Kansas City Royals. Tune in to hear every pitch, every hit, and every out as the Chasers play at Warner Park and across the International League in 2024. With the voice of the Omaha Storm Chasers, Nick Batters, on News Talk 1290 Coil.
The Storm Chasers are on the road and take on Indianapolis tonight. First pitch is scheduled for 5:35. You can hear all the action on your home for the Storm Chasers, 1290 Coil.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety meds, everyone's on them. If you're a 50-year-old male, maybe a bit porky, and you may even have type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. Call Term Provider. Speak with Big Lou at 800-444-2013. Big Lou will find a term life policy for you even if you have type 2 diabetes, are overweight, or have high blood pressure. Term Provider has helped thousands of people like you who think they can't afford term life insurance. To buy $1 million of affordable term life for you, all you need to do is call Big Lou at 800-444-2013. Lou will make sure the scales are tipped in your favor. Call 800-444-2013. Big Lou will answer your call and work to fit you into a term life policy that you can afford. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too. Call 800-444-2013. 800-444-2013.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same but is 95% cheaper? And you can get it online at hims.com/radio. Through HIMS, you'll get a free medical consultation to determine the ED medication that's best for you, discreet shipping if prescribed, a 100% online process, and a range of treatment options, including trusted generic alternatives to the name brands, at up to 95% off. ED is personal, and at HIMS, so is treating it. Just go to hims.com/radio and get connected to a licensed medical provider online for free, with zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, hims.com/radio. That's hims.com/radio for your free online visit. hims.com/radio.
Hey, Connor.
What's up?
So, you're getting an Auto Express Lane certificate in less than a year?
I need to put my career in the fast lane.
And Jenny, in just 5 months, you earned a veterinary assistant certificate?
It's kind of a pet project.
JC, is that
Blood? Yeah, I'll be certified as a phlebotomy tech in just 5 months.
A positive, JC? Earn a career certificate in less than a year. Get started at mccneb.edu/adults. Classes start June 5th.
This is me at MCC.
Now back to mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
So what happens when Peter and I start talking about Vegas? We get sidetracked and we forget to call our man Sip. So we are calling him right now. So Sip, if you're wondering what the hell's going on, yeah, we're going to be calling you here right now. We were sharing our Vegas stories. Yes. We will be talking about Nebraska's regional matchup with Florida. Evan Bland is on his way out to Stillwater, and so he's going to join us at 9 o'clock. We'll also talk with Brian Edwards. We'll talk to him at 9:45. Speaking of Vegas, did want to give you a little follow-up on one of the stories that Peter had in the update, and that is we mentioned it was most likely that the New York Mets were going to be DFAing Jorge Lopez. Of course, he was the one who threw the glove into the stands yesterday and then went on to talk to reporters after the game, saying that he didn't regret throwing his glove into the stands and that he also feels that he is on the worst bleeping MLB team out there. He also was talking about the dispute between him and one of his other players, and mentioned that he, throwing the glove, he did that out of a lot of emotions. He says he just doesn't give an F about anything. So that's once he becomes available, I'm sure he's going to be a hot commodity out there on the waiver wire there. If you want to pick up a reliever, Jorge Lopez will be DFA'd very shortly. And in his own words, he just doesn't give a blank about anything right now. So that's how it goes. Well, a guy that gives many blanks about many things, though, Steven Sipple of the Husker Online and 93.7 The Ticket. Sip, how's it going? How was your Memorial Day weekend?
It was okay. It was kind of busy.
Yeah.
Like, it just seems like it never really stopped. We did, I worked on Memorial Day itself. I had one day off in there. It was pretty good. Yeah. A lot of the beat kind of went on for me.
Did you get down to Omaha at all to watch the Nebraska baseball run?
I did not.
Okay.
I watched it on TV. I watched the Sunday morning game.
Yeah.
And enjoyed it, and I saw two other games, so I saw a lot of the baseball, and it was captivating, certainly. And I'm a big Will Bolt fan. I mean, I was really happy he got hired as the head coach. So I'm happy for Will. I'm a big Rob fan too. Going way back with Rob Childress. And I don't, full disclosure, Nick, I don't cover baseball as much as I used to.
Yeah.
Kind of in the new role, I don't as much. But I covered Will as a player. Covered Rob for all those years when he was a coach. So I really I'm happy for those guys. Really happy for them.
It's weird too, and we talk about this in all the sports, whether we're talking football, basketball. I mean, the amount of conversations that people have had about if it is or is not going to work with Fred Hoiberg, and last year was so big into that. I know that at times during Will Bolt's tenure as the head coach for Nebraska, there have been moments where people are wondering, is this the right thing, or what is the overall expectation of baseball? I was asking this question before it happened a lot last week, and that is, if Nebraska could win a Big Ten tournament in baseball, where that might rank as far as the accomplishments that this program has achieved. And Sip, to me, I think you have to separate the eras of the accomplishments during the Big 8, Big 12 era and the accomplishments that you have in the Big Ten era, because I think as much as it can be in the same sport, it's apples and oranges. But if I look back to the regular season titles they had in 17 and 21, and then having the tournament win that they did and the championship that they did this last week, I think it's right up there. And these are the expectations that I think people have, not necessarily winning the tournament every year, but being in the mix to where you're always considered, once that tournament begins in Omaha and Nebraska, A, is a part of it every year, but B, when they enter the tournament, they're considered to be one of the teams that will be in the mix. I think they accomplish that. And I think that, to me, that's what the expectation should be, at least within the Big Ten realm. Not sure if you agree with that or not.
Yeah, I'd say that would be about the least expectation for me. But yeah, I think Nebraska in the Big Ten should be one of the better teams every year. One of the top 2 or 3, in my opinion, and always make it to Omaha. I mean,
right?
Not making it to Omaha was hard to stomach, and then listen, Will Bolt would tell you that he deserves a lot of criticism on that.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of times we do this and we're critical of Will Bolt or critical of Fred. It's not out of bounds, because they probably agree. I mean, that Will Bolt probably has expectations to be the best team in the Big Ten, or one of them, and go into Omaha every year, like you said, with a chance to win the tournament title. This year I look at it in totality more than, I don't separate the regular season and the tournament so much. I look at it kind of in totality, and it was a good look. It was a good look if you look at it that way. Second in the league.
Yep.
They went right to the final part of the season, the regular season, with a chance to win the regular season title. Then they went and won the Big Ten tournament. Good. Perfect. Now, what's the expectation at regionals?
Mm-hmm.
At the regional in Stillwater, I mean, I'd like to see them. I guess the way I look at it is I'd like to see them push for push Oklahoma State or whoever, probably Oklahoma State, push Oklahoma State to the brink. And kind of like what happened at Arkansas a couple years ago. I think, but God, Nick, you know this stuff so well, and you're baseball oriented. I was baseball oriented back in the day, the Van Horn days and the Mike Anderson days, and it was different. The Big 12 made it a different conversation. Correct me if I'm wrong in your opinion, but I just think better players were available to you. I mean,
I agree.
So it's hard for me. I always have to remind myself, Nick, that they're in the Big 10. This isn't the Big 12 anymore. You're not going to have, I keep saying it, you're not going to have a staff with Zach Kroenke and Brian Dunsing and Jabba Chamberlain and Johnny Dorn. Probably not going to see that.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to, they caught lightning in a bottle with Jabba and Alex in the same city and getting them on the same team. But I don't know. You see a lot of kids, a lot of Metro kids, a lot of kids in Lincoln, good baseball players leaving.
Yep.
They're going to warmer climates. So it is what it is.
Yeah, I'm with you, and that's why I continue to separate the eras because of the challenges that you currently have by just being in the Big Ten. You can be successful. You can be one of the top teams in the Big Ten year in and year out. But as far as the competition that you're facing every year, the opportunities that you have in the postseason, and I even look at tomorrow, Sip, for a game that I have no idea what to expect. You've got one of the premier players in all of college baseball, and Jack Caglione, with Florida, but this isn't the same Florida team that was the national runner-up. I mean, they barely made it into the NCAA tournament, and you got this Nebraska team that's extremely confident. But then where I hesitate to say, okay, I'm all in with Nebraska winning that game is I know what Florida sees week in and week out. And I also know what Nebraska sees week in and week out when it comes to competition. To no fault of their own, that's just the conference that they play in. I would have more confidence in what Florida has been up against than Nebraska if I'm trying to make an educated guess on how that game plays out. Again, that's not Nebraska's fault. You play who's on your schedule in conference play. Florida, who's struggled at times in the SEC, are still at the end of the day playing SEC teams. So nothing Nebraska presents tomorrow is going to be completely foreign to them, in my opinion.
No, it's not. I think I get what you're saying now. It's really, really interesting to me tomorrow. I mean, what's it going to look like when you match up the teams' athleticism, skill level? I know you're wondering about that. I'm wondering about that too. What is it? Is it going to look that much different? Here's what I really wonder: those SEC hitters they face really good pitching. Florida's hasn't done really well, but they face such good pitching. How will Nebraska's pitching stack up? That's what I'm wondering against Florida's lineup. What will it look like for Brett Sears? What will Sears look like to Florida? I mean, he was the Big Ten pitcher of the year. Would he just be another guy in the SEC?
Right.
That's kind of what you worry about, I guess, if you're a Nebraska fan. But that's really I'm really interested just to size up the team.
Yep.
Speed, size, athleticism, skill level. Does it look much different? That's part of the beauty of the NCAA tournament.
Yeah. And the great example of don't let your eyes try to lead you down a path of certainty is I would use the example that you brought up in 2021 when Nebraska went and played Arkansas. You looked at that dugout and what Arkansas had physically. Those guys look like dudes. I mean, they passed the eyeball test. And for the most part, from the performance test, too, they were the overall number one seed. Then you had this scrappy Nebraska team bringing in super seniors like Joe Acker and Jackson Hallmark. And these guys are lucky to be, 180 pounds, wet and wearing boots. Yet what they were, and they embraced, and that was that Will Bolt competitiveness that I thought that team embodied. And I would say if there's one thing to be intrigued about or optimistic about for tomorrow is I think this team also embraces that a lot. I think they have not only the Will Bolt competitiveness and fire, but also the Rob Childers one, which you know very well too. So from a physical standpoint, even if it looks a little off kilter, I still think there is a little bit of that with Nebraska that can serve you well.
Yeah, Nebraska is what you're getting as a tough-minded team.
Yeah,
I've talked about this. What I was really struck in January when Will and it was probably one of those preseason media events, and Will said we want to be the nation's toughest team.
Yep.
Struck by that. Like, what's that? What does that mean exactly? Like toughest team. I mean, if you think about it, it's mainly you're talking about resilience.
Yep, and they've shown that
mental toughness, and they did. They never went on a prolonged losing streak.
Right.
They had problems in the midweek, and you can't talk about their season without mentioning the midweek problems. But it never waylaid them.
Right.
The midweek never really carried too much into the weekends, right? Because Nebraska's won series on 12 of their last 14 weekends. And then what happens in the Big Ten? They lose 15-2.
Yeah.
And you think, oh God, this is a short stay in Omaha, kind of a nightmare. Nope. Tough team, resilient, wins 5 straight elimination games. So I kept thinking about that quote that Will had. We want to be the toughest team in America. Wasn't just talk. They're pretty tough. I don't know if they're the toughest team in America. I don't know how you gauge it, but they're pretty tough. And what I saw on the field was a tough-minded team. Those guys against Penn State, there was no margin for error, and they had a little error, in the first inning.
Yep.
Didn't play throw and catch. So the pickoff goes into the outfield, etc. But after that point, flawless. I mean, and you're watching it, and in a game like that, a 1-1 game.
Yeah.
It's like every pitch matters, every ground ball. You played the sport. Every ground ball is big. I mean, and guys fielded their positions really well, made the plays, and got it done. So I was really impressed, and I'm always really impressed with Rob calling the game. I mean, I can't believe it gets too much better than Rob Childress calling a game. And so all that is why I think you've got to watch this team closely in Stillwater.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Hey, football-wise, I want to get your thought on this because I know it makes for good conversation when it comes to the annual anonymous breakdown of a team where a coach from a Big Ten school will talk about another school on their schedule, and we know that happens. Athlon puts that out every year. How much do you put into these, whether they're a longer description or a short but sweet description from a Big Ten coaching peer or someone on the coaching staff? How much do you put into what is said about various schools, including Nebraska?
I don't know. I mean, I can get myself in trouble in this conversation with fellow journalists. I don't believe those comments. I don't even know if they're. Sometimes I think they're fiction. It's hard to put any stock in them. And here's why I say that. And again, I know this. I know what I'm doing is basically questioning a magazine's credibility, and
Sure.
I guess what I'm doing. But I know coaches. I've dealt with assistants and head coaches for 30 years.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I know any coach that would agree to do what they're suggesting. So will you talk about this other team, and I won't use your name?
Right.
Most coaches I know would say, what? You want to do what? No, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to talk about another program. I don't care. I mean, you really expect me to do that?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't put any, I will tell you, Nick, I put no stock in those. Zero. They're just kind of funny to me. And I read them. I guess I read them, but I don't go by it.
Well, and the reason I ask it is because, that's an interesting thought on from your perspective, especially someone who you have sources, you have, and you're gonna be able to find things out by utilizing the resources that you have. It was interesting the conversation, or at least the anonymous coach on what they had to say about Nebraska, I think, is extremely consistent to what we're hearing from the national media perspective of Nebraska. Yeah, we know getting Tony White back was a big deal for Nebraska. Yeah, we know Matt Rule is doing a lot of things to rework the offense because of how much it struggled a year ago. It was very vague, but it also, to me, Sip, is consistent to what, not even necessarily locally, but more nationally, the overall intrigue and, dare I say, optimism for a year two jump for Nebraska under Matt Rule.
Yeah, I mean, no, I got to tell you, I don't know what we're talking about. I didn't see those quotes that you're saying, but if that's, I mean, what you just characterized is, I mean, that makes.
I basically gave you the highlights, and it is also mentioned with here's one direct quote right here. It says all about the quarterback. They've tried to slow play it as much as possible, but he's clearly their best option, the most talented guy, the guy who makes the system work. And then it goes into Matt Rule reworking the offense to surround with a little bit more talent. That it talks about getting Tony White back was huge. And then this was kind of interesting. Said, I thought the shift to the 3-3 worked out really well for them, and they're starting to look like old or legendary Nebraska with the size and talent up front on defense.
Huh. Yeah, none of that is off base to me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's all, but Sean Callahan could have said that stuff.
Right. Well, yeah, you're right, and you're absolutely right. And it's fair to at least ask, because I was for myself saying, I wonder what coach spoke. I wonder what team, and it does now. The amount of teams in the Big Ten and the amount of games that you have, it's supposedly from an assistant coach that is on the schedule. It's fair to say, I wonder who, I wonder what, or if that is maybe a beat writer or that's covering the team.
Yeah, I don't. And when I talk like what I was referring to mainly is when there's harsh criticism from one of those anonymous quotes I get kicked out of. Like, really? You were going to do that? But no, that stuff is on point. I mean, all that stuff I agree with. I don't think there's any doubt that Rule slow played the quarterback situation on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes complete sense in every sense to me. I mean, why name Dylan the quarterback and give him a level of comfort?
Yeah.
I don't, with the quarterback position, I don't like comfort in the conversation. I don't think it should be comfortable for a quarterback. I think it should be mostly uncomfortable all the time. I think there should be competition because it's a discomfort. It's a position that's defined by discomfort and how do you react to it? Because it's going to be really uncomfortable for Dylan. There's going to be a lot of pressure when you get in. When you get into the big games, Colorado. When you play Colorado, I mean, they do have some pass rushers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it's going to be intense. It's not a situation that's comfortable all the time. When you get into the Big Ten, that's when it gets really uncomfortable because the nature of the defense is big, long, tough, physical, great coaching. The chess match is hard. The physical match is hard. Everything is hard. So I love the way Rule has done this. There's no reason to hand anything to Dylan. And then the other side of it, of course, is you always got to have the transfer portal in the back of your mind.
Yeah.
And I don't think Heinrich will ever go anywhere. I don't think he ever considered it strongly based on what I've heard.
Mm-hmm.
But you just never know. You never know. So why mess around with it when you don't have to?
Before I let you go, the thought about the defensive line, I never thought about it as the Nebraska of old and the physical style. But when you do look at what's that?
Not quite yet.
Right. Yeah. And that one stood out to me just a little bit because I think there is that potential, but I wouldn't say the dominance is there on the defensive line, but the potential is definitely there. If you see this group, that defensive line group, make an improvement, take a step forward, what does that look like to you? Is it just
bigger plays?
Okay.
But bigger. I mean, here's what it looks like: more splash plays,
Mhm.
and then more depth.
Yep.
More production, just pure production from Nash and Ty. I mean, people have asked me, like, why wouldn't you see them on a first team All Big Ten or maybe a second team? Well, Nash was second team in Lindy's because they don't have the tackle production.
Mhm.
You know, they don't have like Ty doesn't have the tackle for losses and sacks. That's sort of the next thing for me to see them make, like, remember Malik?
Yep. That's exactly what I was thinking of. Yep.
Yeah, Malik, and you can go back further, certainly in that. I mean, and you don't even have to name obvious ones. Remember Jim Scow? Jim Scow would make a lot of plays, a lot of key situations. Malik, a couple seasons, just would make big plays, key moments, and behind the line of scrimmage. So you want to see more of that from those guys. And I think depth, they don't have the depth. When I hear somebody say, yeah, it's starting to look like days of old at Nebraska, but no, they don't have the depth that they did. That's the kind of the next thing that I'd like to see. They have the guys, but there's kind of a drop off, and they're not, just not, the depth's not where you want it to be quite yet.
Steve Sipple joining us every Thursday at this time from Husker Online and 93.7 The Ticket. Sip, always appreciate the conversation, my friend. Have a great rest of the week.
All right, Nick. You and Peter do it. Hold down the fort. We'll talk again.
All right, sounds good. That's good stuff from Sip, as always. We're going to switch it back over, talking some college baseball, talking about Nebraska's matchup with Florida tomorrow. Evan Bland, who is on the road on his way to Stillwater, is going to join us. Also, we'll talk to Brian Edwards before we get out of here as we get into hour number 4. It is Mornings with Sharp and Handley, 1620 The Zone.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley returns in minutes on 1620 The Zone. Live from the Host Coffee Studio, this is 1620 The Zone. 1620 The Zone. Traffic.
From the Pyramid Roofing Time Saving Traffic Center. It's a smooth sailing Thursday morning in the Omaha Metro with no accidents or delays to report. Couple road constructions to keep in mind. There's long-term road construction closing Millard Ave between 144th and U from now till the end of August. Also northbound 72nd between F and I-80 still closed due to bridge work. So if you want to get on the interstate, you'll have to take the detours through either 84th or 60th. Hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. Just be sure to buckle up and drive safe out there. I'm Joey Colbert.
This time-saving traffic is brought to you by Saul's Jewelry and Loan.
I have never seen this before. Hi, John with Saul's Jewelry and Loan. The price of gold is the highest it's ever been. Now is the time to get the best price on your broken jewelry, chains, and diamond jewelry. Saul's has been around a while, and trust us, now's the time. Saul's Jewelry and Loan.
How powerful is Cox Fiber? Powerful enough to let your band members in Vegas, Phoenix, and Omaha jam like you're all in the same garage. Introducing Cox Fiber, from the company with the fastest download speeds 9 years in a row. It's internet built for tomorrow, today. Cox, always building better. Limited availability in select areas. Speeds vary and are not guaranteed. Cox terms and other restrictions may apply. Analysis by Ookla Speed Test Intelligence in Las Vegas, Omaha, Phoenix. Fixed median download speeds Q2 2016 to Q1 2024.
Are you the decision maker in your company? Consider this. For the first time in decades, there's a better option for a corporate card and spend management platform. Meet Ramp, the only corporate card and spend management system designed to help you spend less money so you can make more. Most corporate credit cards offer points as incentives, but those points amount to less than their worth in real cash value. Ramp's business cards offer you cash back, real money in your pocket. Plus, you control who spends what with each vendor. And Ramp's software collects and verifies receipts automatically, which means you'll stop wasteful spending and close your books in hours instead of days. Businesses that use Ramp add up to 5% to their bottom line the first year. If you're a decision maker, adding Ramp could be one of the best decisions you've ever made. And now get $250 when you join Ramp for free. Just go to ramp.com/sports. Ramp.com/sports. RAMP.com/sports.
Cards issued by Sutton Bank and Celtic Bank, members FDIC. Terms and conditions apply.
Email us on the Equitable Bank inbox with whatever is on your mind. Zone Inbox is brought to you by Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. You can get me, Gary, at 1620thezone.com. We want to hear from you on the Equitable Bank Zone Inbox.
You go into your shower feeling, but as soon as you reach for the Irish Spring, your day immediately gets better. That crisp, fresh, unmistakable Irish Spring scent zings your brain and awakens your senses. So when you finally emerge from the shower, 37 minutes later, because you pay the water bill so you can stay in there as long as you want, you're ready to take on the day and smell great doing it. Irish Spring Body Wash and Bar Soap. Fresh, green, Irish. Shop now at Walmart.
Tickets for less. Best seats, best prices, no service fees. Shop tickets for less.com. KOZN Bellevue, Omaha, Council Bluffs. This is 1620 The Zone. And we're back. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
Hey, don't forget to join the VIP club. Sign up for 1620 The Email. You'll be the first to know all the exciting content that's happening on 1620 The Zone, including sports, news, contests, promotions, and more. Sign up today at 1620thezone.com. We are one day away from the NCAA baseball tournament beginning, the road to Omaha. Who will find their way here in a few weeks? And what will Nebraska experience starting tomorrow out in Stillwater? And a guy is making his way over to Stillwater is Evan Bland of the Omaha World Herald on the Husker baseball beat. Evan, good morning. Hopefully the beautiful travels. I'm assuming, what are you going? Are you traveling down 81?
Yep, traveling down 81, hanging out in Park City, Kansas right now, watching a little thunderstorm.
Oh, no.
That's all good.
Okay.
It's the Midwest, baby.
That is very, very true. When you saw Nebraska's draw on Sunday, you thought what?
Well, I think
I should say Monday. I guess it was Monday.
The quick reaction was, oh, it's Florida on the other side. And then I think anyone had maybe a brief 96 Fiesta Bowl flashback.
Well, Matt Schick and Kyle Peterson went there right away. So
yeah, that's right. Yeah. And, it reminded me of, Nebraska's one College World Series game against the Gators too. But
that's what I thought.
But no, I mean, other than that, it was interesting kind of following Florida late in the season, because everyone remembers they went to the College World Series final last year, and they have one of the top two-way players in the country, and Jack Kegley known. But I think just the chance to face a power brand like that was probably the first thing that came to mind. Everybody knows who Florida is. Everybody knows what they've done, what they've been all about, especially under their coach, Kevin O'Sullivan. And so I guess the first kind of knee-jerk response was, man, this is an opportunity for Nebraska to turn some heads. And yeah, maybe Florida's not what it's been even last year, but to play well against a team like that, to have a chance to beat a team like that, I think would get a lot of attention nationally. And, it's anytime you can play an SEC power and hold your own, like it's a major opportunity for Nebraska. So I do think the draw is fairly favorable, and we can talk about that. But I think just for the general college baseball fan who knows who Florida is, this is a big chance for Nebraska.
We know that O'Brate Stadium is going to play like a launching pad. We know that obviously serves a team like Florida well when you have Jack Caglione, who doesn't really even need a launching pad. It could be some of the ballparks that have the furthest dimensions, and he's still going to be okay. For Nebraska, and I was talking about this in the first hour, I will still, and even in the championship game against Penn State, the offense wasn't explosive, but it was an opportunistic offense against a really good pitcher in Linsman. But if you look at what Nebraska offensively is capable of doing and being able to hopefully take advantage of a ballpark that sees the ball fly out a lot, do you put them up there as a threat, just like any of the other teams, maybe not knowing as much about Niagara, but Oklahoma State and Florida?
Well, I mean, Nebraska's offense is different from those. Though Florida and Oklahoma State remind me a lot of major league kind of three true outcomes sort of offense. They're going to take their walks, they're going to hit their long balls, and they're going to strike out a fair amount. And so Nebraska is different in that it's not afraid to steal bases or lay down a sacrifice or move guys over. I thought one of the big values of their run in Omaha last week, Nick, was the emergence of Josh Caron and especially Gabe Swanson, not just because those guys have the ability and heat it up, but because this was a lineup that needed a run producer. Like the lineup is full of guys who can take their walks and steal bases and do some sort of the small ball stuff. But like to have a guy like Gabe Swanson who can double to the gap in the 9th inning of the title game is huge. Or for Josh Caron to provide instant offense is a different dimension than what this offense has showed. And so like, I think if they can continue to show adequate power in Stillwater, in addition to doing all the other things that they do, grinding out at bats and putting pressure on the defense and all the rest, then I think that's a really good spot for Nebraska to be in. And especially with a team like Florida, yeah, they can mash it as well as anybody in the country, but you kind of look up and down their lineup, and outside of the long ball, you know, they don't steal, they don't really advance runners. Outside of Caglianone, nobody who's a lineup regular is hitting north of 270 in terms of batting average. So like, if that facet of their offense isn't working, it's a lineup that I think can turn over pretty quickly. And, you know, Brett Sears is going to have a chance to do that. We'll see how sharp he is on a Friday afternoon with his 4-pitch mix. But I think the matchup is decent for Nebraska. I think the offense, the history of a postseason would tell you that there's certainly value in that instant offense, and you need the threat of the home run ball. But sometimes you're facing an ace, or it's hard to score, and you need to find another way to manufacture runs. And I think that's maybe where Nebraska differs, and maybe that can be an advantage this weekend.
Evan Bland joining us from the Omaha World Herald here on 1620 The Zone, on his way to Stillwater for that Stillwater Regional. Nebraska takes on Florida at 2:00 tomorrow at O'Brien Stadium on the campus of Oklahoma State. If you're to look at, again, this more short tournament format outside of the starters, to you, watching this team as much as you have and watching the trends just recently in Omaha, who is the most important arm out of the bullpen, in your opinion?
Well, I guess it kind of depends on how they use some of those guys. It could be Drew Christo, if they need him in the first game or two. Though, you know, I think I'll say Jalen Worthley, just because, you know, they have so many long relief options. They could go Christo, they could go Caleb Clark, they could go Brockett in relief if they needed to. But like, I think Worthley is the closest thing to like that one shutdown inning sort of a guy. And if there's something this team lacks on the pitching side, it's probably that super dominant closer type that they had in Spencer Schwellenbach a few years ago, and really even Shea Shanneman, I would say you could put in that category. So I think if Worthley does what he's capable of doing, and they just need that 1 inning bridge or maybe 2 inning guy, like he's the one to me that that stands out. And I know he emptied the tank last week at the Big Ten tournament. He's on plenty of rest now into this weekend, but you figure if Brett Sears is going to do what he does and give you a quality start, say go 6 innings, you know, Worthley's the guy who can maybe give you the 8th or the 9th, or the 7th or the 8th or something like that. So he's the guy I think that Nebraska probably would want to go to first out of the bullpen. And again, if he's sharp and doing what he does, then he makes it get late pretty quickly for opposing offenses.
If you go back to the mentality of this team, we were talking to Josh Caron earlier in the week, and I like the way that he described this team's identity. We mentioned resilient, and I think that that's an appropriate one, and he agreed, but he also said he'd also throw in balanced on their approach. And I think that also goes into why you've seen them be so resilient, as it seems like they are very even keel. I think of this time of the year, we saw it play out in Omaha, but you had the comfort of essentially being at home and having a home crowd behind you. There'll be a lot of Nebraska fans in Stillwater. We know that. But having that approach, that balanced approach that Josh Caron talks about, you get the feeling that what they experienced last week, to be able to parlay that similar approach in a setting like this, is something very reminiscent of 2021 and how that team approached that regional.
Yeah, the kind of the don't care.
Yes, there you go. Yeah, that's I almost forgot about that, but right. Yeah, the don't care.
Yeah, a little bit of that. You know, I think this team has been really even keel all year, in the sense that, like, hey, you know, it's had its midweek struggles. It's had its share of sort of late meltdowns or heartbreaking defeats. But I mean, almost every time, without fail, it bounces back, which is why, it's won every weekend except for 2 this year, which is why there's really been no snowballed losing streaks, nothing beyond 3 games all season. And so I think that's part of this team's DNA. And to me, the value that Omaha provided for them last week was, it gave that atmosphere to them a week early. Like, this was a team, I had to kind of go back and look. Outside of Kyle Perry, nobody's pitched or done anything in a NCAA tournament setting for Nebraska on this roster. And so they needed to make up for that lack of experience somewhere. And I thought they did in Omaha. When you play 5 straight elimination games, you win them all, you're playing in front of a crowd of 10,000 plus on Saturday and 13,000 plus on Sunday. Like, now they have a taste of that. They've, they know what it's like to have their backs against the wall. They know what it's like to play in front of big crowds. I think they have a better sense of kind of who you can trust in certain situations and what roles are best for certain guys. And so, you combine all that again with what they've been all season, just in terms of, hey, maybe they're not the most dominant team around, but they always find a way to stick with it and keep a level head. And, you talk about baseball being a marathon, not a sprint. Like, that's, I think, an attitude that they've really adopted, and that it's served them well through this year. And I think it serves them well in the regional format where, hey, maybe they don't win Friday against Florida, but that doesn't mean that they're done. And they just learned that lesson firsthand. Maybe they don't beat Oklahoma State on a Saturday, but like, they know that they have the starting pitching to come back. So I think all that kind of comes into play when you talk about mentally how you navigate a regional weekend.
And I know you're not in the prediction business, so to speak, but if I'm gathering your breakdown of just this regional, this matchup, even tomorrow, there's a lot of things that I think you're laying out that I think are very justified. I think are very fair when assessing this team and assessing that matchup with Florida, that there is a lot of things that could go Nebraska's way, as long as, again, like in anything, there's the execution. But I'm curious if they get a win tomorrow against a program like Florida, albeit not the same team that was battling LSU in the national championship series a year ago, what that might do to a team that I think is already confident, but what that could do for a winner's bracket type scenario. It's hard not to ignore the fact that it's that name on the front of the jersey, and you alluded to this earlier, could be a very big moment for this program, but also for these guys in trying to continue to build the confidence that I think they already have.
Yeah, what I think is interesting about this matchup, Nick, is that, like, you look at the numbers that Florida has and the numbers that Nebraska has, and I think you have to put them both into context. Like, the numbers that Florida has aren't great. They're toward the bottom of the SEC in a lot of areas, but, like, you have to acknowledge that this is an SEC that just sent a tournament record 11 schools to the big dance. So, like, they're probably doing okay. They just went to Georgia on the last week of the regular season. That's a national seed, and they won that series.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, the numbers I think that Florida has, you probably have to figure, okay, they're probably a little better than what those numbers are. I think conversely, you can look at Nebraska and say, okay, they're a top 25 team in terms of ERA. They're whatever they are in scoring and so on and so forth. But, if you put Nebraska in the SEC, you probably have to discount that a certain amount. I think that's only fair, only logical. And so, like, where does that meet in the middle? Like, does that, even if you discount some of Nebraska's numbers and you inflate some of Florida's, like, do you still consider Nebraska to be the favorite? And I think if they were to go out and win that game Friday afternoon, that does add a new layer of validation to what Nebraska's been able to do this year.
Yeah.
If they can beat Florida with the recipe that they've used to win so many weekends, with good starting pitching, with a balanced, versatile offense, with defense that's been better, then I think there is a ton of value in that says, okay, hey, what we did was successful in the non-con, it was successful in the Big Ten, and now it's successful against a traditional SEC power. And yeah, I think there's a lot of momentum still, even Friday, to be had, that if you win that thing, what's really left to be intimidated about against a potential game against Oklahoma State after that. So yeah, I think there is a lot on the line in that sense. Maybe they wouldn't tell you that, but some internal validation for what they've done.
Yeah, I think it's only natural. Evan Bland, Omaha World Herald. He will have the coverage for you all weekend long as Nebraska's playing baseball with great coverage at the Omaha World Herald. Evan, safe travels. Hopefully that storm, it gets away from you and you have nothing but smooth sailing all the way down there to Stillwater.
Yeah, good old Big 12 country. It's always an adventure.
Be well, my man. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, Nick. See ya.
That is Evan Bland of the Omaha World Herald. Peter, you watch a lot of baseball too, and you've been around student athletes. I think Evan's right. I don't think that they would ever publicly say it, that if things go well tomorrow afternoon and let's say that led to a victory in a winner's bracket game against what I would consider the likely favorite would be Oklahoma State over Niagara, that you would point back to that game on Friday and say that's where their confidence hit an all-time peak. Because I don't think I know this from experience in high school. There are a lot of times that you would look at a program and what it said across the front of their chest, and it was easy for that to take over your thoughts as opposed to maybe some of the weaknesses that truly did exist with that team, but you couldn't look past the jersey. But if you beat that team, maybe they just weren't very good, but you still beat that name, that you're flying high and you feel like you beat the team that was the national runner-up. It wouldn't shock me that if you sat down and got a candid conversation with one of the guys, again, if that scenario played out, that they'd say, yeah, I mean, we were sky high after beating a team like Florida because of who they are, what their program has stood for, even though they weren't as good. But that was a big moment. It's an interesting matchup. And I brought up just like Evan said, I brought up the SEC part of this discussion with Florida and looking at their numbers, that they're not overwhelming, but they're still numbers that you have to factor in are in the SEC and the best baseball conference in college baseball, that they're going into this thing battle tested. There's not one thing that Nebraska will throw at them that will necessarily overwhelm them. Now, it could still beat them, but it won't overwhelm them. Yeah. They won't be like, oh my God, what Nebraska's throwing at us is something we've never seen. So you hope that in every aspect of the game, you are extremely sharp. But there's also a Nebraska team, and this is where you get into this time of the year, the emotions that go into it, and confidence can be a tricky thing with how Nebraska had their backs against the wall and never really played like they were the team that had all the pressure on them. They kind of doled that back out to the other teams that they were playing. And a home crowd obviously helped that. There's going to be some Husker fans there tomorrow and Saturday, regardless of if they're playing an elimination game or a winner's bracket game. How this team feeds off that confidence of what that run is. And I think that's a great point by Evan of, other than Kyle Perry, nobody on that team has had any type of NCAA regional experience. So the longer stay you have in any postseason format like they did in the Big Ten tournament, the better in going into that experience and helping you maybe understand what you're about to embark on in an NCAA regional. I think that that's a great point, that they were able to get a little bit of that feeling during the Big Ten tournament as well.
Well, and in hindsight, obviously you don't want to get walloped in the first game of the Big Ten tournament. That was not how they envisioned starting that. But with the clarity that they ended up winning the tournament, it puts a whole new light on the games leading up to that and how valuable that was.
Yeah.
Especially in the lead up to the NCAA tournament.
That's why I go back to what I said earlier. The first 3 innings of this game are going to be really interesting to see how Nebraska is. And I made this prediction a week ago that Brett Sears getting the victory he did against Purdue, despite not having his best stuff, but just grinding out a win, competing on the mound to be good enough to get that win. If I go off past experiences, usually that means a really big performance is coming. I expect big things out of Brett Sears tomorrow, but that true indication will be in the first 3 innings on the mound. But also, if this team offensively is to have a major punch in this weekend's regional, you're also going to see that in the first 3 innings. I think the first 3 innings of this game tomorrow are going to tell you everything you need to know about it, of how it's going to go, and maybe more importantly, how it might go this entire weekend for Nebraska. You hate to put that much emphasis on 3 innings of baseball in a double elimination format, but I think it really does come down to that. Maybe I'm oversimplifying it. That's just kind of how I see it.
It's a lot more fun to play your second game after winning the first. Let's just say that. And setting the tone.
Very exciting. Don't forget the Connor Happer Show coming your way at 10 o'clock. And on the show, we will have Jacob Padilla. He will be talking a lot about the big college basketball story of the amount of players that are making their way back to college basketball and not going to partake in the NBA draft. It's a big return when it comes to some very notable players and some teams that will be part of the mix. So that's who Connor will be talking with during the Connor Happer Show. They'll have plenty more, I'm sure, on tonight's Western Conference Finals as well. All of that is coming up on the Connor Happer Show, which is about 40 minutes from now. Before we get out of here, we'll be talking to Brian Edwards, a little wagering on tonight's Western Conference Finals, and also got some UFC bets that, of course, we always expect B to be making. We'll talk about that. Coming up next, so one of the dumbest things I've seen any person do when it comes to facing a court date. You may have seen this, you may not have, but Peter and I had a lot of fun with this, and we're going to tell you about that coming up next.
Gary Sharp, Nick Handley, and Jimmy Chavez. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Weekdays 6 to 10. On 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com. The Connor Happer Show.
Chris writes in on Twitter, there will be no missing Angel Hernandez. Absolutely none. He's terrible, and I'm truly happy to see him go. Do you at all feel bad for a human man, Angel Hernandez, who just so happens to be just awful at his job? Do you at all feel like, all right, he's retiring, we should just let it go, rather than pile on, happy to see you go, rotten hell, you know?
The Connor Happer Show. Weekdays from 10 to 2 on 1620 The Zone. Your Omaha area forecast from the Godfather's Pizza Weather Center and KETV News Watch 7 on 1620 The Zone.
Impact weather for your Thursday, mainly dry in the morning with increasing cloud cover. Chances go up for scattered showers and thunderstorms in the afternoon and evening. A couple could be on the stronger side, otherwise breezy with highs around 80. I'm meteorologist Sean Everson from KETV News Watch 7.
Watching a ball game at Oscar's Pizza and Sports Grill is pretty awesome. Oscar's offers the MLB package, so your team is always on their upgraded audio-video system, and nothing is better than watching the game with a cold frosty one, Oscar's Pizza, or award-winning char-buffed wings. And with daily lunch and dinner specials, it's really a no-brainer. So get ready to watch your favorite team play ball at Oscar's Pizza and Sports Grill, 173rd and West Center Road, and takeout at 162nd and Maple.
For generations, hardworking people have relied on Ford F-Series trucks to help grow businesses, communities, families. A legacy of capability and technology that has made Ford F-Series America's best-selling trucks 47 years straight. This is the next generation of Built Ford Tough. Based on 1977 to 2023 calendar year total sales.
Hey, baseball fans, join the Blur Tailgate at Hilton Omaha this June for our 12th annual hospitality event during the College Baseball Championship Series. Book an experience for your clients or employees with an inclusive bar, buffet, TVs, music, and tailgate games. Secure your spot today and let Blur Events take care of all the work so you can enjoy the day. Plus, we're just steps away from Charles Schwab Field. Visit blurevents.com to book your group, buy tickets, or learn about sponsorships. That's blurevents.com, your college baseball and football tailgate destination.
Hello? Jan, it's Kay. Are you and Rich free for dinner tonight? I'm making pizza.
Sounds great. What time?
6 p.m.?
Sorry, can't do it. Wheel of Fortune is on and Rich won't miss it.
You're kidding.
Nope. He's seen every episode since 1975. He won't budge.
Listen, tell him if he comes, we'll buy him a Bunch of Wheel of Fortune scratch tickets from the Nebraska Lottery.
Won't work. He has to see the show.
That's just it. Until July 30th, if Rich enters any non-winning $5 Wheel of Fortune scratch ticket online, he could win the ultimate fan trip to Los Angeles, including airfare and accommodations. He'll also win tickets to a live taping of Wheel of Fortune and get to spin the big wheel to win at least $2,000.
That might work. Could you do just one other thing?
Sure. What?
Could you write free spin in pepperoni on every other slice of pizza?
Why don't you just come at 7?
Wheel of Fortune top prize odds, 1 in 112,000. Diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety meds, everyone's on them. If you're a 50-year-old male, maybe a bit porky, and you may even have type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. Call Term Provider. Speak with Big Lou at 800-444-2013. Big Lou will find a term life policy for you even if you have type 2 diabetes, are overweight, or have high blood pressure. Term Provider has helped thousands of people like you who think they can't afford term life insurance. To buy $1 million of affordable term life for you, all you need to do is call Big Lou at 800-444-2013. Lou will make sure the scales are tipped in your favor. Call 800-444-2013. Big Lou will answer your call and work to fit you into a term life policy that you can afford. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too. Call 800-444-2013. 800-444-2013.
Are you the decision maker in your company? Consider this. For the first time in decades, there's a better option for a corporate card and spend management platform. Meet Ramp, the only corporate card and spend management system designed to help you spend less money so you can make more. Most corporate credit cards offer points as incentives, but those points amount to less than their worth in real cash value. Ramp's business cards offer you cash back, real money in your pocket. Plus, you control who spends what with each vendor. And Ramp's software collects and verifies receipts automatically, which means you'll stop wasteful spending and close your books in hours instead of days. Businesses that use Ramp add up to 5% to their bottom line the first year. If you're a decision maker, adding Ramp could be one of the best decisions you've ever made. And now get $250 when you join Ramp for free. Just go to ramp.com/sports. Ramp.com/sports. RAMP.com/sports.
Cards issued by Sutton Bank and Celtic Bank, members FDIC. Terms and conditions apply.
3 feet. I'm Trooper Ollie with the Nebraska State Patrol. Oftentimes, 3 feet is all we have when working on the side of the road. When you come across an emergency vehicle working roadside, Nebraska law requires drivers to move over or slow down if you can't move over. For all of us who perform our jobs on the road, help us out and move over. This message is presented by the Nebraska State Patrol and the NDOT Highway Safety Office.
The Zone Hotline is powered by 42 Degrees, The Source, by your mom's house.
Now back to mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
Brad Edwards of Vegas Insider going to be joining us here in just a moment. Got some UFC to get some wagering advice on also. Tonight's Western Conference game number 5 between the Wolves and the Mavericks. Notice this made the airwaves this morning on the Today Show. I'm sure Good Morning America as well. When it comes to unintelligent criminal behavior. And I hate using the word criminal in this one because it seemed like it was kind of a mundane type of situation in a court appearance for one gentleman who was facing essentially a suspended license for some moving violations. Well, what had happened is this gentleman, during a court appearance, which he joined the court appearance via Zoom, which you can do. It's something that is allowed, especially if you have something that is going to keep you from making it in person. Maybe you have a doctor's appointment, like in this gentleman's case. Corey Harris, who was charged with driving on a suspended license, joined the court proceeding via Zoom. And if you're being charged with driving on a suspended license, Peter, let me ask you this question. Where's the last place you probably want to join the court appearance via Zoom? What would be the last place you want to be spotted in?
I'm really going outside the box here, but I'm going to say maybe driving a vehicle.
And you would be right. And I think the majority of anyone that would be facing something similar would say, yeah, you know what? I'll join this Zoom, but I'm going to go ahead and not be in my car, even if I have to be. So what had happened is Corey Harris was on Zoom. You could clearly tell that he was driving. In fact, he admits to it. The judge asks him the question of, are you driving right now? And he said, yep. And he was oblivious to it. Like, yep, hold on. I'm actually just about to pull into a parking lot.
Give me 1 second.
Yep. Just give me 1 second. And the judge, I think at first is thinking there's got to be a punchline here. There's got to be a gag. No one can be this dumb. And as he pulls into the parking lot of what he says is a doctor's appointment, the lawyer and judge are really kind of dumbfounded. Then the judge reiterates, this is a case on on driving with a suspended license, correct? And sits there for Corey Harris. It's silent for probably a minute or two, to where Corey Harris has to say hello, and then the lawyer says, "We'll be right with you, Mr. Harris." And then yeah, I'm going to go ahead and revoke bond. And Corey Harris, you need to turn yourself in by, I don't know, that afternoon, or there will be a bench warrant out for your arrest. And the look on Corey Harris's face is that of just, his world just came crashing down. Like, oh my gosh, you got to be kidding me.
How did I get caught?
I mean, what the hell, man?
Okay, so should we listen to the tail end of this? Yeah. I've got, for the people that haven't seen this, here's the tail end of this.
Yes, bring this to me.
So maybe I don't understand.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
How did this happen to me?
It's
very easy, actually.
The facial expressions from the judge are just like, you couldn't even make it in an SNL skit. It was just,
he seems like a guy who has probably seen a lot in his time as a judge. And even this one really confused him of, this guy's really doing that? And then the fact that Corey Harris, the man being charged in this matter, is just devastated that he's going to have to turn himself in. Dude, if you had a doctor's appointment and you knew you had a court date and they were going to allow you to be on Zoom, here's what you do. You get to that appointment a little earlier. You go to some place in the lobby and you sit there and do the Zoom there. The fact that you're doing it, well, it's even one thing to be in a car, but while it's moving, while he's actually driving in his car and confirming that, yep, I am, and hold on, I'm just about to pull into a parking spot for a doctor's appointment. Just, like, I feel, I don't know how much you're going to really fool any judge, but you could have even said, yeah, I couldn't find like a good spot to do Zoom, so I'm just doing it in my car. But the fact that you could tell he was driving and he said as much.
Oh, it's just
it's too good. You just have to question the intelligence, or at least this is that whole classic. What were you thinking? And then it's a rhetorical question because the answer is always clearly.
I mean,
you weren't thinking.
Could he have even just joined the Zoom without his camera on, like just his voice? I guess they probably do need evidence that it's actually
yes, yeah. That I'm assuming you would need to at least see their face.
Oh, but like even just join like a minute later.
And I don't even know if he really was going to a doctor's appointment. I don't know what the doctor's appointment was.
Knows?
Maybe you
Maybe
can
it was
postpone
a
that.
cover.
Yeah. Or like I said, if you know you got a doctor's appointment, get there a lot earlier and get in the lobby and go ahead and experience Zoom through that.
Oh, it's too good. Oh, we did. I just am seeing now on a brief reprieve from this hilarious development. It's going to be a big day for college football kickoff times that are coming out and trickling in throughout the day.
Yes.
A couple notable ones.
Yep.
Opening week, August 31st, Penn State at West Virginia will be a noon kick on Fox. And Oklahoma, Texas, first SEC version of the Red River rivalry.
Yeah.
Not the usual 11 a.m. slot.
Oh, no. What are they doing? 2:30?
It's going to be a 2:30 kick.
Oh, come on.
So
that's no fun.
Brett McMurphy categorized it as more time for fans to get quote unquote prepared.
Prepared, yeah. I like that.
So not the usual 11 a.m.
We love game time release dates. We do.
Yeah, so I think a lot of those are going to trickle in today.
Well, we will be all over that. All right, when we come back, Brian Edwards, who's all over everything in the world of sports wagering, will join us and we'll get his best plays for the upcoming day and weekend. Coming up next.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com with Gary Sharp and Nick Handley. Remember, no matter how you listen, it's still AM radio. 1620 The Zone.
So, Isabella, you're in high school earning college credits?
Tuition-free college credits.
Tuition-free? Your mom's got a...
Love that.
Hey, Maya, hold up. You'll graduate from high school.
But my college gen ed's knocked out. Tuition-free.
That's got to save you and your parents thousands in college tuition. How about you, Ian?
I'll be debt-free thanks to MCC.
Earn college credits while still in high school. Tuition-free. Get started at mccneb.edu/tuition-free. Classes start June 5th.
This is me at MCC.
Experience personalized service and exceptional deals at Woodhouse Lincoln. With cutting-edge technology and incredible design, Woodhouse Lincoln is the place to find your next luxury vehicle. Going on now. Receive 2.9% APR for 72 months on the 2024 Lincoln Navigator. Or save up to $2,000 off MSRP with retail customer cash on the 2024 Lincoln Navigator. With approved credit, $299 doc fee due at signing. Offer expires July 8, 2024. See dealer for details.
Success in today's electrical market requires your company to be able to adjust to an ever-changing field. A partnership with IBEW Local 22 gives you that flexibility with access to journeymen, apprentices, proven training programs, marketing assistance, entry into markets not available before, ability to expand and contract with changing market conditions, and a benefits package for you and your employees. Contact Bob at IBEW Local 22 for additional details at 402-980-7596.
Let's go on a fishing trip you will be talking about for years. The best walleye fishing trip ever. Join me, Crash Davis. We're going to travel to the walleye capital of the world, September 15th through the 19th aboard a deluxe motor coach. Travel with me to Ballard's Resort on Lake of the Woods. Pricing includes round-trip motor coach transportation, 4 nights lodging, 3 days of fully guided walleye fishing, and all of our meals. Go fishing with me, Crash. Your best trip ever. Sign up at ballardsresort.com. ballardsresort.com. And set the hook.
Getting quality employees to fill positions in your company is essential, but finding those people can be a major hassle, unless you use ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter makes finding quality people a breeze. And right now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. With ZipRecruiter, one click sends your job to hundreds of top job sites. But more than that, ZipRecruiter's advanced technology identifies the candidates with the skills you need, sends you a list of great matches to review, then actively invites them to apply for your job. And the results speak for themselves. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. That's right, the first day. Now you can focus on your business and let ZipRecruiter do the work finding the best people for you. See for yourself. Experience the ease, efficiency, and power of ZipRecruiter for free. Just go to ziprecruiter.com/radio. That's ziprecruiter.com/radio. ziprecruiter.com/radio.
The Zone Inbox is brought to you by Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. Email me, Connor Happer, with the Connor Happer Show at Connor, CONNOR, at 1620thezone.com. Send me your love, your hate, and maybe a few hot takes. The Zone Inbox, presented by Equitable Bank.
Hey, it's John and Josh here for the FanDuel Sportsbook. The NBA playoffs have tipped off, but there's still lots of time to get in on the action with FanDuel. Because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. Just place one winning $5 bet. You get $150 in bonus bucks to use on same-game parlays, live bets, even championship futures, and a whole lot more. Because there is no better place to bet all NBA playoff action than America's #1 sportsbook. So go to FanDuel.com/1620 and get started.
So like John said, just go to FanDuel.com/1620 and new customers, again, you can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 that you can use on a variety of props. It's FanDuel.com/1620. 21 plus and present in Iowa. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit is required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-BETS-OFF.
And we're back. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
It's that time we wrap up a Thursday talking to our man, Vegas Insider, Brian Edwards, who joins us here on the 42-degree hotline, The Source. Good morning, Brian. How are you, my man?
Good morning. What's happening?
Oh, same old, as we get into another busy weekend. I know we got UFC 302 taking place, but also we still do have a little NBA basketball going on tonight. I'm trying to speak this into existence, but I don't think you're with me on it, as if we're looking for the first time ever to see a team come from behind 3-0. For that to actually happen, we would need another win by the Minnesota Timberwolves tonight. And right now, they are a favorite, but I think you like the Mavericks tonight, don't you?
Well, I mean, just as an underdog, if I had my druthers, Minnesota would win by 4 or fewer, just so we could get some more basketball.
The best of both worlds. I get you.
Yeah. So, I'm going to go with the Mavs plus 4.5. So or in 6 games as underdogs in the playoffs so far, Dallas is 5-1, both straight up and against the spread. In 8 road games in the playoffs, they're 6-2, both straight up and against the spread. And in their 3 regular season losses to Minnesota, Kyrie did not play in any of those games. And the one game he did play against Minnesota in the regular season, they won. And obviously he's played all 4 of these games. So now when Kyrie's been in uniform, Dallas is 4-1, both straight up and ATS in 5 head-to-heads with the T-Wolves. So I'm going to go with the Mavs plus 4.5, maybe 5 if you're fortunate to get a better number. I also like the over 209.5. So the over's 3-1 in the series so far. The combined scores have been 213, 217, 223. And the lone under was Tuesday night, 205. And they also played 4 head-to-head meetings in the regular season, and those combined scores were 220, 228, 223, and 208. So in 6 of the 8 head-to-head meetings, they've had at least 213. So I'm going to go over and Mavs plus 4.5.
All right, UFC 302, big card this week, and I know you're going to be highly active on this one. First of all, I want to start with your emotional hedging, because we all do this. Sometimes I do find myself doing this a lot with Chicago Bears games, where I will take Green Bay to cover, yet I'm hoping it will lose, because that means if it loses, then the Bears win. And at the end of the day, I'm very happy because I'm a big Chicago Bears fan, but I let my brain do the betting, and I let my heart reap the benefits if I'm wrong. Is that what you have going on in the lightweight title bout?
That's the 100% exact recipe I have going on. My brain tells me that Islam Makhachev by submission at even money at FanDuel is a great bet. And I also like it under 1.5 rounds, which gets a plus 130 return at FanDuel, a little less at most other books, probably plus 115, plus 120. And, in the under 1.5 bet, Dustin could win and I could still win that. And, I think Dustin's chances of scoring a knockout are much better in round one and early in round two. But I'm a huge Dustin Poirier fan, and so I am rooting for him 100%. But he's up against it in Makhachev, and Kevin Holland said this at Media Day yesterday, and I believe it to be true as well. I think Islam Makhachev could go up to welterweight at 170 pounds and become the champion. But right now he's dominating at 155. Unfortunately, I think that'll continue on Saturday night.
What are you going to get into in the heavyweight bout between Jailton Almeida and Alexander Romanov? Are we looking at more of the distance of this one?
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to go under 1.5 rounds at a minus 120 price at FanDuel. And the reason why is 20 of Almeida's 23 fights have gone under 1.5 rounds. Now, I am going to get involved with Almeida on the side just in a 3-leg parlay because I think he's too expensive. But I think there's 3 favorites that are too expensive to bet straight, or at least Holland and Almeida are. Randy Brown, he's around minus 175 to minus 185. That's even a little too chalky for me, but that's the combination I'm going to use. Holland, who, is anywhere from minus 265 to maybe even almost to minus 300. Randy Brown and Jailton Almeida. Now, the prices yesterday morning got me a plus 198 payout on that 3-leg parlay, but Almeida has shot up from minus 265 to minus 300 or a little even more. So, and Holland's price went up a little bit as well. So I'm thinking this parlay will probably only get anywhere from maybe plus 160 to hopefully plus 175 at this point. But I feel good about that one. 3 fairly heavy favorites, and I think all 3 will come through.
Make a little money with that parlay. Hey, before I let you go, too, I know you're not getting in on this action with Sean Strickland and Paulo Costa, but the comments from Sean Strickland towards Tom Brady, what the hell, man?
Man, that guy will give him a microphone. He will piss off all sorts of segments.
Wow.
He went after Dana in the UFC brass yesterday. Give that guy a mic, and who knows? Everybody might catch a stray. Now, but I will say about this fight, I am a little interested in Costa, but you never know with him until you see him on the scale Friday at weigh-in.
Yeah.
So I think Strickland's a little overpriced, but I can't trust Costa until I, see if he makes weight, see what kind of shape he looks like he's in. He has made weight for the last 2 fights, which is sort of unusual for him. So I'm not going to recommend a play on him right now, but if he looks good at weigh-in tomorrow, I might have a little bit on him. He's anywhere from a plus 190 to plus 205 underdog right now.
It's Brian Edwards, Vegas Insider, joining us every Thursday at this time. B, have a great weekend. Enjoy the card and enjoy the hoops tonight.
You too, brother. Thanks for having me.
Good stuff there from Brian Edwards, VegasInsider.com. Big thanks to him. Also, our guests on the show, Sarah Baker Hansen, Steve Sipple, and Evan Bland. If you missed any of it, the radio replay always there for you. Tomorrow, we'll be joined by John Schreiner, as well as myself and Peter. So we look forward to finishing off the week in style, getting you ready for a regional baseball Friday with Nebraska and Florida and more on that. We'll be talking to some of our usual guests, including Michael Bruntz of Husker 24/7 Sports with a little primer for that game tomorrow, and also Matt Verzal, maybe another surprise or two. Big thanks to Peter also for running the show.
Absolutely.
Connor Happer Show coming up next. Again, they're going to be talking with Jacob Padilla and much more as Connor and Josh will be in here in just a moment. We'll do the crossover next. Appreciate you tuning in here to Mornings with Sharp and Handley. For Peter, I'm Nick. Have a great rest of your day. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. here on 1620 The Zone.
Live from the Host Coffee Studio.